Chapter 1187. Ling Xiao, this doesn't seem like your style. Why don't you just kill this kind of scum? Didn't you see how unconvinced he was when he left? The Moon Maiden said with a smile. I have to give Princess Yunya some face. If I kill that guy in front of her, I'm afraid the boss of the Black Python clan will blame it on Princess Yunya. Ling Xiao explained. You really know how to take care of girls. The Moon Maiden said with a meaningful smile. I swear to the heavens, Sister Moon Maiden. In my heart, you are the only one I love. Ling Xiao hurriedly swore to the heavens. All right, why are you so nervous? If I didn't believe you, would I care about you so much? Although the Moon Maiden was an expert, she was still a woman. When she heard Ling Xiao's words, she still felt sweet from the bottom of her heart. You're right. Princess Yunya, I'm sorry for dirtying your place. It's just that guy's mouth was too smelly and I couldn't help it. Ling Xiao said to Yunya with a smile. Yunya smiled bitterly and helplessly. Although that's the case, after that guy leaves, he will definitely complain to the boss of the Black Busy clan. I think you should leave the City of Sin. That boss has always been very protective of his family. Whether it's right or wrong, anyone who dares to provoke him, especially his family, will be in for a bad time. There's no need for that. Let's go to the private room first. I have something important to talk to you about. I hope you can help me get it done as soon as possible. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, As for the boss of the Black Python clan, it's best if he doesn't provoke me. If he does, I will definitely make him suffer. Yunya glanced at the Moon Maiden and couldn't help but sigh. I forgot that you have a protector by your side, but don't blame me for not reminding you. It's best if the Moon Maiden doesn't make a move. Once a Yin-Yang realm expert makes a move in the City of Sin, it will definitely attract the attention of the Chang'e Celestial Island. It will be even more troublesome then. I don't need my sister Moon Maiden. The Moon Maiden was not the only thing Ling Xiao could rely on. Furthermore, he didn't bring the Moon Maiden with him as a bodyguard. It was because the Moon Maiden needed the moon in his mountain river world. After all, the soul of his master, Yuan Venerate, was recuperating in his mountain river realm. If he really ran into trouble, he had plenty of ways to deal with it. In the private room, Yunya brewed tea for Ling Xiao and the other two. Then she went straight to the point and asked, Young Hero Ling, if there's anything you need, just tell me. It's not the first time we've worked together. We should have a tacit understanding between us, right? And it's actually not that complicated. I need some materials for alchemy. Do you have green mangoes in your trading company? Ling Xiao asked. Green mangoes aren't some precious medicinal ingredient. Of course we have them. I'll give them to you once we return to the Divine Phoenix capital. Yunya nodded. No. Princess, Yunya may have misunderstood. If it was just a green mango, I could have bought it outside before. This time I need a lot of it. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, I need at least 200,000 green mangoes. 200,000. Yunya couldn't help but be shocked when she heard Ling Xiao's words. Green mangoes weren't fruits, but real medicinal ingredients. Although they weren't very precious, 200,000 of them at once was definitely not something that the shops or stalls outside could provide. It was no wonder that Ling Xiao would directly ask her for them. You want to refine the fusion essence pill? Yunya asked tentatively. Haha, Princess Yunya is indeed an expert. That's right, I do want to refine the fusion essence pill. Ling Xiao replied. As far as I know, the fusion essence pill is a kind of auxiliary pill that can help absorb the energy in other pills and integrate it better into the human body. If I'm not wrong, you don't just want to refine the fusion essence pill, right? Yunya lowered her head and thought for a while before asking. Smart. Otherwise, why would I say that our cooperation is the best? That's right. In addition to the fusion essence pill, I also need to refine the transcendental pill, the heaven origin pill, and the constitution enhancing pill. These are all pills that are suitable for transcendence and celestial realm cultivators to cultivate. Ling Xiao smiled and directly took out a piece of paper and gave it to Yunya, saying, "The herbs on this list are all marked with the quantity. The green mango is the least expensive at 200,000. The one with the most is nearly 300,000. Originally, I thought that if you couldn't even get the green mango, you wouldn't need to ask about the rest of the herbs. But since you have already asked, I'll show you this list." Yunya pondered for a moment before saying, "There is a place that produces a lot of herbs, but you and I can't get there. However, I have an acquaintance who can help you, but he may need some benefits. Otherwise, he won't help. Tell me, what kind of pill do you want me to refine this time?" Although Ling Xiao didn't have a lot of money, his alchemy skills were very good. In the mysterious world, there was no cultivator who didn't need pills. This was his opportunity. "Haha, young Hero Ling is indeed young Hero Ling. You are smart," Yunya said with a smile. "As you said, I need you to refine a Heaven Fire pill." Heaven Fire pill? That's not a low-grade pill. It's a top yellow-grade pill, and the materials required are also very rare. But it's not very popular. Ling Xiao clearly remembered that the Heaven Fire pill should be a pill that was specially created for cultivators with fire attribute martial souls. According to the eternal divine pill scripture, taking the Heaven Fire pill could strengthen a fire attribute martial soul, increase the fusion between the martial soul and the body, and increase the cultivator's strength. The most important thing was that top yellow-grade pills were the favorite pills of yin-yang realm cultivators. It seemed that the master Yunya knew was most likely a yin-yang realm cultivator, and it was possible that he wasn't on the divine Phoenix continent or the heavenly dragon continent. "How is it, young Hero Ling? That senior only needs one of these pills. Moreover, he has personally come to Sin City this time to choose the most suitable alchemist for him at the alchemy conference." Yunya said with a smile, "From what you're saying, he might not use me, right?" Ling Xiao asked, "That's right. This senior only recognizes the first place contestant of the alchemy conference. As long as you can get first place in the alchemy conference, this matter will be considered a success. Not only will you be able to accept this business and ask him to help you, but most importantly, you will be able to build a good relationship with him." Yunya said with a smile, "That's good." Ling Xiao said in a low voice, "I originally planned to participate in the alchemy conference. Since this senior wants me to get first place in the alchemy conference, then I will try my best to cure him. Are you confident?" "What do you think?" Ling Xiao asked in return. "Haha, with your alchemy skills, I'm afraid that no one in the Sky Dragon continent and Divine Phoenix continent can compare to you. However, the people from the Five Immortals Island might not be as good as you. You still have to be careful," Yunya reminded him. "Now that you mention it, it seems that I really have to get first place. Otherwise, won't I be looked down upon by Princess Yunya?" In fact, Yunya didn't understand his true alchemy skills. If he used all his strength, it wouldn't be a problem for him to refine a yellow-grade super pill, let alone a top-grade super pill. Chapter 1188. After settling the matter of the herbs, Ling Xiao planned to auction off the things he didn't need. Yunya brought him to the place where the auction items were collected and reminded him of the rules. Under normal circumstances, the worst magic treasure had to be an immortal treasure, and the worst medicinal pills had to be of the middle yellow level. Anything lower than that would not be accepted here. Ling Xiao thought about it. He should be able to sell the swords he had before. With the increase of his cultivation and the increase of his realm as a swordsman, the weapons that had helped him overcome many difficulties and defeated many enemies had reached a point where they needed to be replaced. The weapon he needed now was a divine treasure level soft sword. Therefore, other than the Golden Crow sword, which still had some unsolved mysteries, the rest like the Purple Lightning sword, Thunder Shadow sword, Raging Wind sword, Overflowing Rain sword, Bewildering Mist sword, and Snow Feather sword could all be auctioned off. Other than that, there were also 2 sets of martial arts manuals suitable for Sky Realm warriors. He had no use for them, so he might as well auction them off and exchange them for more useful items. Seeing that it was a guest brought by Yunya, the people of the Black Wind Tower placed great importance on him. When they saw the swords and the 2 sets of martial arts manuals that Ling Xiao took out, their eyes lit up. Although immortal treasures were not rare anymore, Ling Xiao's immortal treasures were all infused with arrays, so they were much more powerful than normal immortal treasures. Naturally, they would be more popular. As for those 2 sets of martial arts, there was no need to mention them. Martial arts manuals that were suitable for Heaven Realm martial artists to cultivate were definitely good things that countless people would fight over. There is no problem with the items, but today's auction items have already been arranged. I'm afraid we can't add them in. If you don't mind, how about we continue the auction tomorrow? The person in charge of the Black Wind Tower was an old man with a beard. He looked to be in his 60s or 70s. His status was probably not low, and his eyes were not weak. The people of the Black Wind Tower called him Big Beard. After Big Beard received the items, he registered them and gave Ling Xiao a certificate. Then he explained the situation. No problem. I will be staying in the City of Sin for a few more days. Ling Xiao nodded. All right, young master can rest assured. After the item is auctioned, you only need to use this certificate to receive the spirit stones. However, we have a rule here that we need to take 20% of the commission. Does young master have any objections? Big Beard asked. No problem. Anyway, these were the rules. He had nothing to say. It was not like they were deliberately targeting him. All right then. Take care, young master. The auction is about to begin. I wish you good luck. The bearded man was very respectful. He didn't know if he was giving face to Yunya or Ling Xiao's items. After entrusting the item to the Black Wind Tower, Ling Xiao went to the VIP room again. At this time, the auction was about to begin, so Yunya needed to prepare, so she didn't accompany him. In any case, it was a walk in the park, so it was nothing. After they had a cup of tea in the box and waited for a while, the auction finally began. The VIP room was relatively high, and there was a huge glass wall in front of it. One could see the outside from the inside, but the outside couldn't see inside. Through the glass, Ling Xiao noticed that Yunya had already appeared at the auction site in a splendid dress. At this time, she was wearing a very seductive dress, just like when she was at the Heavenly Dragon auction house. Every single one of her actions exuded a strong attraction. Do you like it? The Moon Maiden suddenly asked with a smile. No way, Sister Moon Maiden. Are you jealous? Ling Xiao stuck out his tongue and laughed. Yes, I am jealous. What do you think? The Moon Maiden raised her chin and said. Cold Plum looked at this scene in surprise. She had never seen the Moon Maiden with such a cute side. This expression was just like a lively little girl's. Nothing much. I am very happy. Ling Xiao laughed. Although Princess Yunya was outstanding, and he had fantasized about her, weren't all men like that? Although he fantasized, he would stop thinking about it every time he thought of the Moon Maiden by his side. Although men were sometimes unfaithful, they still had to be content. The Moon Maiden, such an outstanding woman, was willing to accompany him. This was the greatest happiness in his life. Did he still need to stare at the flowers on the roadside? At this moment, a voice suddenly came from the room next door, which ruined Ling Xiao's good mood. It turned out that the people in the room next door were none other than Deadly Sword Mo Xiaoyu and the disciples of Bibo Island. Senior brother Mo, I heard that you have liked Yunya for a long time. Why don't you just force yourself on her? I think you are a little too gentlemanly. Shut up. The Heavenly Dragon auction house is not something we can afford to offend. However, Yunya is really charming and charming. If it doesn't work, I can only ask my master to propose marriage on my behalf. And Mo Xiaoyu was straightforward. What if she is unwilling? Unwilling? Then I can only use force. And Mo Xiaoyu's voice became cold. We can't afford to offend the Heavenly Dragon auction house, but it will be fine as long as we don't let them know. Sure, senior brother Mo. Be careful, the walls have ears. A girl's voice hurriedly said, "What are you afraid of? If anyone dares to gossip, I will cripple them." The cold and domineering voice directly targeted the rooms on both sides. When Ling Xiao heard this, he couldn't help but sneer. Yuan Yu was his business partner and had helped him a lot before. Even if they weren't related at all, he wouldn't let Mo Xiaoyu have his way if he knew of his dirty thoughts. Beauties were meant to be protected, not trampled on. Ha ha ha. Senior brother Mo is still so domineering. If we can get the shadow sword this time and get the beauty back, our Bibo Island will be proud. What is mine. No one can take it away from me. Mo Xiaoyu sneered. Ling Xiao felt that this guy was very funny. In a place like the City of Sin, there were all kinds of experts and rich people. How could he be so confident? Could it be that he was relying on the power of Bibo Island? Ling Xiao smiled disdainfully. Back then, he was just as arrogant in Piping Island. Now, not even a speck of him was left. Although the overall strength of these islands was comparable to the Black Crow Empire and the Divine Phoenix Empire, they were smaller and had fewer resources. Therefore, compared to the two empires, the Seven Martial Grandmaster Island was still slightly inferior. Otherwise, they wouldn't be at ease staying on the island. Just like the Five Immortals Island, they would directly rely on their powerful forces to control other countries and islands. Perhaps because the auction had started, there was no sound from the room next door. Ling Xiao also focused his attention on the auction items. There were a total of 20 items in today's auction. From the first item, many people fought until their heads were broken and blood flowed. However, Ling Xiao didn't bid because those items didn't seem like a big deal to him. They were just some martial arts manuals and pills. Chapter 1189. Ling Xiao had 3 goals: the Shadow Sword, the Demon's Pawn Swords, and the Imperial Jade Seal. Unless there was an item that he was particularly interested in, he would definitely not bid. Finally, when the 16th item was auctioned, the Demon's Pawn Swords appeared on the stage. Many people were very interested in this divine artifact. Its starting price had reached an astonishing 10 million low-grade spirit stones. Although the Demon's Pawn Swords were relatively niche, it was still a divine artifact, so there were many bidders. As Yunya announced the start of the auction, the price instantly reached 23 million low-grade spirit stones, which was beyond the range of many cultivators. 23 million low-grade spirit stones, except for wealthy families. Perhaps only alchemists could afford such a high price. It could be seen how rare divine artifacts were in the Heavenly Dragon Continent and Divine Phoenix Continent. 25 million! A voice as cold as a sword came from the private room next to Ling Xiao's. Mo Xiaoyu had the support of the entire Greenwave Island, so 25 million low-grade spirit stones should be insignificant to him. Although they couldn't see the person in the box from the outside, many people felt that the ice-cold, murderous aura was incomparably familiar. It was like a treasured sword covered in blood on the battlefield, about to reap lives. The cultivators with lower cultivations turned pale and trembled uncontrollably. Deadly sword, Mo Xiaoyu. Everyone guessed this person's identity. Perhaps only Mo Xiaoyu dared to release his sword intent in such an unbridled manner in the Black Wind House. Because he was the young master of Greenwave Island, he didn't even have to give face to the Black Python clan. Not only did he have a background, but his own strength was also outstanding. Under the Grotto Heaven realm, not many people were willing to be his enemy. Therefore, after Mo Xiaoyu opened his mouth, basically everyone in the auction gave up bidding. It really wasn't worth offending Mo Xiaoyu for a set of divine artifacts. Even those with higher cultivations than Mo Xiaoyu didn't want to be unlucky. Mo Xiaoyu nodded in satisfaction, preparing to enjoy the joy of a winner. Suddenly, he heard an indifferent voice coming from next door. 26 million low-grade spirit stones. Friend, no matter who you are, give me Mo Xiaoyu some face. In the future, let's talk nicely when we meet. 27 million low-grade spirit stones, and the item is mine. Mo Xiaoyu even revealed his identity as a warning to the person in the private room next door. He hoped that the other party would understand who he was competing with. Sorry, I don't know any Mo Xiaoyu. The item belongs to whoever has more money. 28 million. Ling Xiao had many low-grade spirit stones. Especially after destroying the True Devil Empire, he found a large number of spirit stones in the treasury of the True Devil Empire. Though most of them were used to build the country, he still took some. After all, he was going to the City of Sin to participate in the auction, and he needed spiritual stones. I give you face, but you don't. Mo Xiaoyu's expression. Brother, it's those 3 people from the Black Street. The girl beside Mo Xiaoyu recognized Ling Xiao's voice. It's him. Mo Xiaoyu was stunned. Cold Plum's face suddenly appeared in his mind. He was still a bit afraid of Cold Plum. Although the Devil Mother-Child sword was precious, it wasn't something he needed. As for the gift for his sister, he could choose something else. As long as he could get the Shadow Sword, it was fine. The big picture was more important. Thinking up to this point, Mo Xiaoyu chuckled. 28 million isn't worth it. If you like it, I'll give it to you. However, I hope you won't fight for the Shadow Sword. Otherwise, Mo Xiaoyu won't be polite anymore. It was both a concession and a threat. As expected, Mo Xiaoyu gave up bidding. Ling Xiao successfully obtained the Devil Mother-Child sword. Although the price was a bit high, he didn't feel like he was losing out at all as a gift for Cold Plum. After the Devil Mother-Child sword was auctioned, the 17th item was the Shadow Sword, which was even more valuable than the Devil Mother-Child sword. Mo Xiaoyu had bid for this sword from the beginning. The starting price was 10 million, but he only bid 11 million because he wanted to buy this sword at a low price. Many people who originally wanted to bid shrank back, feeling helpless in their hearts. But this time, Mo Xiaoyu's plan was wrong again. 12 million low-grade spirit stones. The bidder was also in the room next to Mo Xiaoyu's, but it was on his right, not Ling Xiao on his left. Humph. Do you really think Mo Xiaoyu, am easy to bully? How dare any Tom, Dick, or Harry compete with me? The ferocious killing intent and raging sword intent rushed to the VIP box on the right. He didn't believe it. If he couldn't afford to offend the person in the room on the left, could it be that he couldn't afford to offend the person in the room on the right? Mo Xiaoyu, you bastard. What did my bidding do to you? If you want the Shadow Sword, then bid more. Don't be unreasonable. A powerful battle intent also erupted from the room on the right. The image of a giant python was faintly discernible, blocking Mo Xiaoyu's sword intent. It's the Black Python clan's young Master Meng Xiao. That's right, it's the young Master Meng Xiao. Although the crowd didn't dare to participate in the auction, they felt relieved watching this scene. Mo Xiaoyu used his power to threaten them and didn't let them participate in the auction. Now that they met a competitor, they were very happy to watch the show. If there was a young man in the City of Sin who dared to go against Mo Xiaoyu, it must be Meng Xiao from the Black Python clan. Meng Xiao's cultivation was higher than Mo Xiaoyu's. They were evenly matched in terms of strength. After all, the title of Deadly Sword Mo Xiaoyu was not given for nothing. Challenging people of a higher cultivation level was a common occurrence. Fine, you said I don't have money. Then I'll bid 20 million low-grade spirit stones. Mo Xiaoyu snorted. He knew the identity of the other party and knew that they were not to be trifled with. He didn't dare to use force and directly raised the bid to 20 million. 21 million. Meng Xiao bid while resisting Mo Xiaoyu's sword intent. In the eyes of the crowd, today's auction wasn't about whoever bid the highest. It was more like a competition of strength. 30 million. Mo Xiaoyu once again increased the bid by 9 million low-grade spirit stones. At the same time, the terrifying sword intent almost pierced through the entire room. The people outside could clearly see that the room was constantly shaking. As expected of the deadly sword Mo Xiaoyu, it seems like he's determined to get the Shadow Sword today. Otherwise, he wouldn't have bid such a high price. It's a few million low-grade spirit stones, more than the Devil Spawn sword. It's not just that. He's not backing down at all. I'm afraid he's risking the enmity of young Master Meng Xiao. This is called being determined to get it. I don't think anyone can stop him. Meng Xiao didn't bid because he had to fight against Mo Xiaoyu with all his strength. Boom! Suddenly, a loud boom resounded in the air. The 3 VIP rooms were overturned, and the people in the rooms were exposed. Chapter 1190. Ling Xiao frowned slightly and waved his hand gently. Dust flew everywhere, but it couldn't get within 2 meters of him, the Moon Lady and Cold Plum. Amazing. I didn't think that after not seeing you for so long, not only did Lifestealer's strength increase, but you've also become so rich. Forget it. I don't have much use for Shadow Sword anyway, so I'll let you have it. Meng Xiao's hands were trembling, slightly. Although it wasn't serious, it was obvious that he had lost in this battle. It wasn't because he wanted to give up, but because he had no choice. If the younger generation of Emerald Wave Island and the Black Python clan fought, the higher-ups wouldn't interfere. Therefore, if Meng Xiao insisted on being Mo Xiaoyu's enemy, he would only be at a disadvantage. Therefore, he gave up. Mo Xiaoyu smiled slightly and said, "Young master, you're too kind. In that case, I'll accept it." He didn't look at Ling Xiao. This was because he had warned Ling Xiao not to bid anymore. He believed that he still had some face, just like when Ling Xiao didn't dare to attack him in the Black Street. Many people didn't dare to offend the young master of Emerald Wave Island. The people below also saw Ling Xiao and the other two, and knew that he was the one who had competed with Mo Xiaoyu. They couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. In a few days, there would be 3 more corpses in the City of Sin. So what if he won over Mo Xiaoyu here? He would be killed by Mo Xiaoyu sooner or later. This was Mo Xiaoyu's style. "Princess Yunya, I'm sorry to have caused you trouble. I'll pay for the damages." Mo Xiaoyu smiled and looked at the host, Yunya, and said, "Please announce the result." Without Meng Xiao's competition, who else would compete with him for the Shadow Sword? Yun, you didn't say anything. Instead, she glanced at Ling Xiao. She knew that Ling Xiao wanted the Shadow Sword and wouldn't let it go. Ling Xiao naturally didn't disappoint her. He said casually, 31 million low-grade spirit stones, and the Shadow Sword is mine." Before he could finish his sentence, there was already a burst of cold gasps. Many people in the auction house looked at him as if they were looking at an idiot, thinking that there was something wrong with this kid's head. Let's not talk about whether or not you have 31 million low-grade spirit stones. Even if you did, you shouldn't have competed with Mo Xiaoyu for the Shadow Sword. That was simply courting death. This foolish kid dares to disobey the life-taking sword. Looks like he's a newcomer. He probably doesn't know how powerful Mo Xiaoyu is. After suffering a loss, he has to regain some face. Face is important, but life is more important. Young people these days really value their faces more than their lives. No matter what, this person is out of luck. It's a pity for those 2 delicate beauties. They're probably going to fall into Mo Xiaoyu's private stash. The Moon Lady and Cold Plum were too dazzling. Even though they tried to hide their brilliance, they still became the focus of everyone's eyes. Many people were not thinking about Ling Xiao, but how Mo Xiaoyu would deal with the 2 women. However, some people were quietly observing the situation. They didn't dare to laugh at Ling Xiao at all. Ling Xiao went against Mo Xiaoyu in the Black Street. Then he became enemies with Meng Xiao because of the ancient jade. He even killed Meng Xiao's subordinate in front of Meng Xiao. In the end, neither Mo Xiaoyu nor Meng Xiao had any intention of touching Ling Xiao. If they still dared to look down on such a person, they would be pure idiots. It was obvious that Ling Xiao was not a simple young warrior. Perhaps the people in the City of Sin didn't know how terrifying he was. When Mo Xiaoyu heard this voice, his expression became extremely awkward. Then it turned into anger. Everyone heard him threaten Ling Xiao. However, Ling Xiao didn't listen at all. He didn't care at all. Where was Emo Xiaoyu's face? Kid, I let you go in the Black Street because I didn't want you to embarrass yourself in front of those two beauties. Don't take advantage of me. Next, I'll add another 1,000,000. If you just shut up and give up, you'll have a way out. Emo Xiaoyu transmitted his voice to Ling Xiao. Then he said loudly, 32 million low-grade spirit stones. 33 million. Before Emo Xiaoyu could finish speaking, Ling Xiao's voice had already sounded. It was as if he was purposely arguing with Emo Xiaoyu the most. Emo Xiaoyu could even see Ling Xiao's indifferent expression. His expression was too indifferent. It was as if he didn't care about him at all. In other people's eyes, he was worthless. I just said, don't take advantage of me. Since you want to die, I'll give you a quick death. Emo Xiaoyu didn't want to take it anymore. He was a person who ran amok. He was used to being arrogant and domineering. It was already a big concession that he didn't make a move on the Black Street. Now he couldn't take it anymore. His anger erupted like a volcano and spewed toward Ling Xiao. At the same time, a furious sword intent pierced through the air and aimed at Ling Xiao. It was incomparably domineering. He wanted to teach Ling Xiao a lesson. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to remember it. Ling Xiao didn't move. Cold Plum moved first. She stepped out like a ghost and instantly appeared in front of Ling Xiao. Then a ghostly and terrifying murderous aura met Emo Xiaoyu's sword intent. There was a terrifying wail in the air. Emo Xiaoyu's sword intent actually began to tremble. This made his heart tremble. He knew that his guess was right. Cold Plum was definitely a terrifying woman. Emo Xiaoyu, the killer sword? I think it's more appropriate to call you the shameless sword. You can't afford it, but you don't let others bid? Is there such a logic in this world? Ling Xiao didn't even look at Emo Xiaoyu. He just said this calmly. His thick sarcasm and disdain was said in front of thousands of people present. Emo Xiaoyu, you want to save face? Then I'll make you lose all your face. 40 million low-grade spirit stones. Emo Xiaoyu couldn't suppress Cold Plum, so he chose to suppress Ling Xiao in terms of money. 40 million low-grade spirit stones was definitely a sky-high price. If it weren't for Ling Xiao, he would never pay such a price. Today he was going all out. 50 million. Ling Xiao smiled. He had plenty of low-grade spirit stones, and he was determined to get the shadow sword. It might not be worth it in the eyes of others, but in his eyes it was worth it. Emo Xiaoyu finally lost his temper. Although he brought a lot of low-grade spirit stones this time, 50 million was already the upper limit. It was impossible for Emerald Wave Island to spend more than 50 million low-grade spirit stones to buy a divine artifact for him. Senior brother Emo, why lower yourself to his level? Anyway, this thing will be yours sooner or later. The girl from Emerald Wave Island, next to him, also persuaded in a low voice. Good. Very good. For a mere divine artifact, you actually paid 50 million low-grade spirit stones. You really have too many spirit stones to spend. How generous. Emo Xiaoyu couldn't afford it, so he could only take advantage of the situation with his mouth. Chapter 1191. In the face of Emo Xiaoyu's mockery, Ling Xiao smiled faintly and said, So what if I have money? I can use 50 million low-grade spirit stones to feed dogs. Naturally, I can also use them to buy the shadow sword. If I don't have money, then I don't have money. If I can't afford it, then I can't afford it. Why do I have to find such an excuse to make myself look good? Uft. Finally, someone below the stage couldn't help but laugh. This Emo Xiaoyu is too ungentlemanly, but this kid is amazing. He doesn't even care about 50 million low-grade spirit stones. It seems like he really is rich. We think it's a waste, but he doesn't care at all. TSK, I'm so jealous. The people below the stage all looked at Ling Xiao with envy. He had two beauties as his companions and a lot of spirit stones in his hands. In comparison, Mo Xiaoyu seemed to be inferior in every aspect except for being overbearing and slow and unreasonable. But was it really okay for this kid to provoke Mo Xiaoyu like this? Wasn't he afraid that something would happen? Mo Xiaoyu and the people of Emerald Ripple Island were so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. They had been to the City of Sin many times and had never lost to anyone in terms of wealth. This time, they had lost so thoroughly that it made them extremely angry. "Brother Mo, did you hear that? Others said that you don't have money. I've heard that life-seizing sword never loses out. Today, you've been humiliated like this. Don't you want to do something?" Meng Xiao had already recognized Ling Xiao. Now that he suddenly spoke, he was obviously trying to provoke Mo Xiaoyu. He didn't dare to face Ling Xiao alone. But if he had Mo Xiaoyu's help, he might be able to destroy this so-called Celestial Emperor. At that time, his name would spread throughout the entire Divine Phoenix continent. Ling Xiao looked at Meng Xiao indifferently and said with a smile, "Young master of the Black Python clan, you don't dare to fight with me. You're a coward, but you want others to stand up for you. I think this Black Python clan is only SOSO. I guess that Great Master is also a coward, right?" Ling Xiao's words rang out again, but this time everyone was shocked. Where was this place? This was the City of Sin. It was understandable that Ling Xiao had offended the young master of the Emerald Ripple Island, Mo Xiaoyu. After all, the Emerald Ripple Island was too far away to interfere with the affairs of the City of Sin. However, the Black Python clan was the most powerful clan in the City of Sin. To offend the Black Python clan, this kid was really something. Did he eat a bear's heart and leopard's guts? Or was he really retarded? The sinister smile on Meng Xiao's face froze. He glared at Ling Xiao furiously. He wanted nothing more than to rush forward and tear Ling Xiao's body to shreds. "Meng Xiao, it seems that this brat has offended you as well. I can understand if he doesn't give me Mo Xiaoyu any face. After all, the City of Sin doesn't belong to Jade Wave Island. But you, young Master Meng Xiao, are you going to be humiliated like this? He scolded your first master as a coward. Can you tolerate it?" Mo Xiaoyu said to Meng Xiao with a smile. The corner of Meng Xiao's mouth twitched. He said fiercely, "Brother Mo, let's not mock each other. Let me tell you the truth. This person is Ling Xiao, the Ling Xiao who has been in the limelight recently. I heard that he called himself the Celestial Emperor of the Celestial Empire and created a human empire in the Heavenly Dragon Continent. He's trying to revive the human race." "The human race? Ha 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 ha. The lowly humans are trying to revive the human race? Dream on. I wonder if the Celestial Emperor is killed today, will the so-called Celestial Empire collapse in an instant?" Mo Xiaoyu licked his lips and said with a sinister smile, "That's right, Brother Mo. Why don't we work together? This kid does have some skills." Meng Xiao said. "Agreed." Mo Xiaoyu nodded after a moment of silence. He wouldn't allow anyone to be more powerful than him. The City of Sin didn't need someone as powerful as Ling Xiao. "Everyone, the auction is still going on. If there's any problem that can't be solved, can we solve it after the auction?" Yun Ye's cold voice rang out. At the same time, she released her powerful aura. She usually kept a low profile, so very few people knew her true cultivation level. At this moment, the aura that she released easily suppressed Mo Xiaoyu and Meng Xiao. That was terrifying. Although Mo Xiaoyu and Meng Xiao were unwilling, they still nodded and returned to their seats. "Everyone, the young hero has bid 50 million low-grade spiritual stones. Is there anyone willing to increase the price?" Yunya looked around and asked. After a moment, seeing that no one said anything, Yunya finalized the auction for this time. "The shadow sword belongs to young hero Ling. In fact, it wasn't that no one wanted to bid this price. It was just that many people present understood that even if they got the shadow sword today, it would be meaningless. This was because they would be killed by Mo Xiaoyu and Meng Xiao together. Everything would be completely useless." Yunya smiled at Ling Xiao and then moved on to the next auction item. The 18th auction item was a precious elixir. Ling Xiao wasn't interested in it at all. He only wanted to move on to the next auction item as soon as possible. In the end, Mo Xiaoyu obtained the medicinal pill. He even glanced at Ling Xiao with a smug expression, as if showing off how rich he was. You don't have to look at me. I have plenty of low-grade, yellow-grade elixirs. It's not rare to fight with you. I have money, but I won't spend it casually. Ling Xiao glanced at Mo Xiaoyu. His gaze was as if he was looking at an idiot. He dared to spend more than 10 million low-grade spiritual stones to buy a low-grade, yellow-grade elixir. How pitiful. When he refined the same elixir, the total cost would not exceed 500,000 low-grade spiritual stones. It was a world of difference. That was why alchemists refining elixirs was a profiteering industry. I'm afraid it's because there are no more spiritual stones. Mo Xiaoyu said disdainfully. Many people still believed his words. After all, Ling Xiao had bought the ghost devil swords and the shadow sword, spending a total of nearly 80 million low-grade spirit stones. It was reasonable to say that unless Ling Xiao was a powerful alchemist, it was impossible for him to have extra spiritual stones. Ling Xiao didn't explain. He just smiled faintly and waited for the next auction item. The 19th auction item is a precious seal from the ancient times. It's made of bronze and can be used as a magic weapon. Unfortunately, it's a bit worn out, causing its effectiveness to decrease. Now, it's only equivalent to an immortal artifact. However, according to the appraisal and inference of our experts, this item was probably a divine artifact in the past. Its power is heaven-defying. A divine-grade spirit artifact was several levels stronger than a divine-grade artifact. Although it wasn't the Imperial Jade Seal, it still attracted Ling Xiao's attention. While Yunya was speaking, someone had already brought the seal up. The seal wasn't too big. It was square and had a dragon button on it. It looked very powerful. Yunya meant that some of the inscriptions on the seal were damaged. These were the key inscriptions that formed a powerful array. Once damaged, its power would naturally be greatly reduced. At that moment, Ling Xiao's mountain river martial soul actually produced some kind of throbbing. He was puzzled and opened his Tai Chi eye to observe. He didn't know if he didn't observe. Once he did, he was overjoyed. Chapter 1192. It turned out that the bronze seal was just an outer layer. The real thing inside the seal was the famous Imperial Jade Seal. Ling Xiao's Tai Chi eye had the powerful analytical ability of the mountain and river martial soul. Naturally, he could see through all of this. However, others could not. He forcibly suppressed his excitement, and his expression remained indifferent. Only the Moon Maiden, who was sitting beside him, noticed his body trembling slightly. She was a little confused, but she did not ask. There were not many people who were interested in this seal. After all, it was only an immortal grade treasure. Other than some warriors who liked to collect antiques, there were very few experts who would be willing to buy an immortal grade treasure. No one in the Sky Dragon continent and the Divine Phoenix continent could restore the primordial inscription. Not even the Five Immortals Island could do it. It was said that there were people on the continents near the Heaven's Chosen Gate who could do it, but no one could prove it. Therefore, this thing was of little value. Yunya was forced to be the host here, so she did not show her ability to attract people. She only commented a few words and then announced the starting price. 1 million low-grade spirit stones. This price was lower than the previous few items by 9 million low-grade spirit stones. It was obvious that even the Ravenwind sect did not care about this kind of thing. Not many people bid, but it was not that no one bid. After a while, an old voice sounded from the crowd. I like this kind of antique. I'll pay 1 million low-grade spirit stones. The older a warrior was, the clearer they were about the history of the primordial era. The person who bought this seal was most likely hoping to get some benefits from it. Anyway, it was only 1 million low-grade spirit stones. It was not too expensive. Mang Xiao, You haven't won anything yet. Aren't you going to bid? Mo Xiaoyu asked with a smile. Why aren't you bidding? Mang Xiao asked. Haha, since Senior Whitebeard has already bid, why should I compete with him? Mo Xiaoyu laughed. Everyone despised him. This guy obviously looked down on the seal, but he insisted that he was doing the old man a favor. How shameless! Ling Xiao, aren't you very capable? Why aren't you bidding? Mo Xiaoyu looked at Ling Xiao and asked, It's none of your business whether I bid or not. Ling Xiao shot a disdainful glance at Mo Xiaoyu. He stretched out 2 fingers and said, 2 million low-grade spirit stones. I also like to collect these strange things. When everyone heard his words, they all thought that he was purposely bidding because he was angry with Mo Xiaoyu. In fact, he didn't know that he was extremely nervous in his heart. She was afraid that her performance would be seen through by someone. If people were to find out that this was the Imperial Jade Seal, then the price of this item would probably reach hundreds of millions. At that time, he would really have to bleed a lot. After all, the Imperial Jade Seal was the Imperial Jade Seal of the sacred dynasty that had been passed down for tens of thousands of years. It was made from divine jade from the primordial era. Not only did it have the effect of stabilizing the fate of a nation, but it was also said to be a very powerful magic treasure. It was just that there was no way to use it. Although he didn't know which amazing craftsman had wrapped the Imperial Jade Seal with the mysterious bronze seal, this was a great opportunity for him to pick up a bargain. The old man glanced at Ling Xiao and sighed in his heart. Young people were indeed impulsive. He was just provoked a little and bid. It was not worth spending 2 million low-grade spirit stones on this item. Hee, young Hero Ling is indeed a rich man. In that case, I won't compete with you. The item is yours. Originally, the old man only wanted to buy it back for fun. 1 million low-grade spirit stones was still acceptable. If the price was higher, he wouldn't be too happy. He was the only bidder. After he gave up, no one else was willing to continue bidding. What a stupid guy. He has too much money and nowhere to spend it. Mang Xiao and Mo Xiaoyu looked at Ling Xiao as if they were looking at an idiot. They found it funny. Ling Xiao completely ignored them. He only spent 2 million low-grade spirit stones to buy the Imperial Jade Seal. Even if they pointed at his nose and called him an idiot, it wouldn't matter, let alone calling him stupid. In the end, who was the idiot, he was very clear in his heart. Deal. Yun Yin knocked the gavel and awarded the seal to Ling Xiao. Although she didn't quite understand why Ling Xiao was willing to spend 2 million low-grade spirit stones to buy such an ordinary-looking seal, she believed that Ling Xiao was definitely not the kind of person who would shoot without thinking. Since he was willing to bid, it was definitely because the seal was valuable. Next up is the last item of the auction. It is also the finale item of today's auction. I believe that everyone present will be very interested. Yunya revealed a mysterious smile and then ordered someone to bring the item up. I believe that everyone should recognize it. This is a martial soul. What kind of martial soul is it? Yunya purposely kept everyone in suspense. After attracting everyone's attention, she said, It is the martial soul of the immemorial heaven, devouring, titanic beast, Tao Tai. Legend has it that Tao Tai once crossed the mystic world and gave birth to a child. After the immemorial war, it became a martial soul and has been preserved until now. I don't think I need to say more about the value of this immemorial martial soul. I hope that the bidders can prepare their bids. It's actually the martial soul of Tao Tai. Ling Zhao's eyes shone with excitement. He had comprehended a powerful move at the 3rd step of the light and shadow ultimacy, Doomsday of Tao Tai. However, that was only the power of the ultimacy. It was not perfect yet. If he integrated the martial soul of Tao Tai, the power of this move would obviously increase by a level. He had even thought of combining each profound skill with a special martial soul. In this way, the power of each of his moves would be enhanced to a whole new level. However, at that time it was just a hazy idea. However, Seeing the appearance of the martial soul of Tao Tai today, this idea might become a reality. If he integrated the martial soul of Tao Tai into his moves, he could use the light and shadow ultimacy derived from the mountain and river martial soul to unleash the greatest power. This should be the direction that he should work towards in the future. His cultivation had to increase, but the power of his moves should also continue to increase. However, the benefits of the martial soul of Tao Tai were too great. Not only was it useful for Ling Xiao, it was useful for almost every martial artist present. The legendary immemorial Tao Tai was extremely powerful. Although this was only the martial soul of the Tao Tai's son, it was at least 1% as powerful as the Tao Tai. This kind of martial soul was something that many martial artists yearned for. Seeing that the atmosphere was about right, Yunya smiled and said, "The starting price of the martial soul of Tao Tai is 30 million low-grade spirit stones. Everyone can start bidding." As the finale item, its starting price was obviously higher than any of the previous items. This included the Demon's Pawn swords and the Underworld Shadow Sword. Chapter 1193. It should be said that 30 million lower spiritual stones was a very high price. Most of the people present could not afford it. However, there were still martial artists who were rich. 31 million lower spiritual stones. The first to bid was the white-bearded elder. When he saw the martial soul of Tao Tai, his eyes widened. 32 million. However, no one gave him face this time. Those who had enough spiritual stones to buy the martial soul of Tao Tai all started to bid. 33 million. After a while, the price of the martial soul of Tao Tai had risen to 80 million lower spiritual stones. There were very few people who could afford it at this price. There were only 4 or 5 people who were still eager to bid. However, it was clear from their eyes that they would not give up so easily. "I want the martial soul of Tao Tai. 100 million lower spiritual stones." Finally, the price rose to 100 million. The crowd looked in the direction of the bid in surprise. It was Mang Xiao. The Black Python clan was indeed rich. They had taken out 100 million lower spiritual stones to bid for the martial soul of Tao Tai. When Mang Xiao made the bid, the crowd quieted down. The remaining few people looked at each other. In the end, only the white-bearded elder persisted. He gritted his teeth and said, "Young Master Mang Xiao, I'm sorry. I must get the martial soul of Tao Tai. 100 million lower spiritual stones, and 1 million more. White Beard, do me a favor. You will benefit from it in the future. 100 million lower spiritual stones, and 2 million more." Mang Xiao looked at the white-bearded elder with a sinister expression. Although the white-bearded elder's cultivation was much higher than his, they were in Sin City. Even the white-bearded elder did not dare to offend him. Sigh. The white-bearded old man sighed helplessly. His entire net worth was only a little more than 100 million low-grade spirit stones. It was not that he was afraid of Mang Xiao, but it was because he could not continue to compete. He could not afford it. "Forget it. Since young Master Mang Xiao has spoken, I will let you have the martial soul of Tao Tai." "Thank you." Mang Xiao cupped his fists and smiled. At this moment, victory was in sight. 100 million lower spiritual stones, and 3 million more. Suddenly, Mo Xiaoyu spoke. The Black Python clan was rich. Emerald Ripple Island was even richer. Mo Xiaoyu believed that although Emerald Ripple Island would not give him such great support for the Shadow Sword, it would be different for the martial soul of Tao Tai. He hadn't bid before because he was using a special magic treasure to discuss with his father. Now that he had made a bid, it was clear that he had obtained permission. "Mo Xiaoyu, you gave the Shadow Sword to Ling Xiao, and now you want to compete with me for the Tao Tai martial spirit? What happened to our alliance?" Mang Xiao was very angry, and his face was gloomy. He did not expect Mo Xiaoyu to appear out of nowhere. "Mang Xiao, Are you really dumb, or are you just pretending? How could the Nether Shadow Sword compare to the Tao Tai martial spirit? I won't let anyone have it. Mo Xiaoyu snorted coldly. They had been allies for a short period of time, but because of one thing they had become like fire and water, and neither of them was willing to back down. All right, I'd like to see how high your price is. Mang Xiao sneered. This Black Wind pavilion belonged to his family, so he wasn't afraid of a high price. After all, he could get a 20% commission, which was equivalent to a 20% discount. However, Mo Xiaoyu had to get the full price. No matter how high the price was, he would accompany him to the end. 100 million and another 5 million. 100 million and another 6 million. Another 7 million. Another 8 million. Mang Xiao and Mo Xiaoyu were at each other's throats, and neither of them was willing to back down. The audience below the stage was very satisfied. This was simply a showdown between two tycoons. You two keep increasing the bid by 1 million. Isn't that too insincere? I'll bid 150 million. The Tao Tai martial spirit is mine. Suddenly, a mocking voice broke the seemingly urgent battle. Ling Xiao. Mo Xiaoyu and Mang Xiao looked at Ling Xiao, and their eyes were almost spitting fire. Ling Xiao, you've already spent 80 million low-grade spiritual stones. I don't believe that you still have 150 million low-grade spiritual stones left. If you can't pay in the end, you'll suffer. Mang Xiao glared at Ling Xiao and said, Do you really think that everyone is as poor as your Black Python clan? You can't afford this price, but I can. Don't talk nonsense. If you don't want to bid, then sit there quietly. Ling Xiao said sarcastically, Who says I can't afford it? I'll bid 200 million low-grade spiritual stones. Do you dare to bid? When Mang Xiao said this, he instantly regretted it. Even the Tao Tai martial spirit was not worth 200 million. However, it was impossible to take back what he had said. He could only hope that Ling Xiao would continue to bid. However, Ling Xiao's face showed a victorious smile. He said with a smile, TSK Tisk, 200 million low-grade spiritual stones for the Tao Tai martial spirit. I really don't dare to bid. I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. The Black Python clan is indeed rich and overbearing. Hearing this, Mang Xiao realized that he had been tricked. Ling Xiao, this fellow, was simply deliberately driving up the prices to make him suffer a loss. Even if the Raven Wind Pavilion belonged to his clan, this item belonged to someone else. He had to give most of the money he spent to someone else. Hateful. I don't want it either. Mo Xiaoyu also chose to give up. He could not afford 200 million low-grade spiritual stones. Ling Xiao, just you wait. Mang Xiao really wanted to kill Ling Xiao. At this time, his anger toward Ling Xiao had surpassed his fear toward Ling Xiao. He could not tolerate it. He could not tolerate it any longer. Ling Xiao was simply toying with him like an idiot. This was simply intolerable. After the auction, it would be Ling Xiao's doomsday. Mang Xiao took a deep breath and waited quietly. He believed that the moment would come soon. Ladies and gentlemen, today's auction has officially come to an end. If you did not get what you want, you can come again tomorrow. Perhaps there will be better things waiting for you. Yunya smiled and made a very charming gesture to the crowd. She announced the end of the auction and then walked down the auction stage. The warriors who had obtained the items in this auction went backstage. When the time came for the exchange of money and goods, the transaction would be considered complete. Ling Xiao also stood up and prepared to collect the 3 items he had obtained. Suddenly, a ferocious aura rushed toward him. Ling Xiao did not move. He just looked at the faintly discernible black python. Mang Xiao did not make a move. He just wanted to vent his anger. It would not be too late to settle the score with Ling Xiao after he obtained the martial soul of Tao Tai. As a warrior of the Black Python clan, he could not awaken a martial soul like a human. Therefore, he could only use a special method to implant it. The martial soul of Tao Tai was the item he had chosen. Although he had been cheated by Ling Xiao and had spent 200 million low-grade spiritual stones to obtain this item, he still had to complete the transaction. After all, the martial soul of Tao Tai was very important to him. With the martial soul of Tao Tai, his strength would increase by leaps and bounds. Even if his cultivation did not break through, his strength would still increase. This was the magical effect of a martial soul. Chapter 1194. For Mang Xiao, he was now a half-step Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. It was the best time to condense a Grotto Heaven domain. The martial soul of Tao Tai could help him condense a stronger Grotto Heaven. This way, after advancing to the Grotto Heaven realm, his cultivation would become even more terrifying. Therefore, even if he was a fool, he would accept it. Mang Xiao and Ling Xiao brushed past each other. Mo Xiaoyu's reaction was almost the same, but it was more direct. The cold sword essence pierced toward Ling Xiao without any concealment, piercing the ground in front of Ling Xiao again. I already warned you at the Black Street. Now, you still have a chance to save your life. That is to give up the devil dual swords and the shadow sword. Mo Xiaoyu looked at Ling Xiao indifferently as he spoke. Then he strode away. The disciples of Emerald Ripple Island looked at Ling Xiao as if they were looking at a dead man. You offended our senior brother Mo and provoked young Master Mang Xiao. You really don't know what's good for you. A few of them looked at Ling Xiao contemptuously and then turned to leave. At this moment, there was a sudden commotion outside the Raven Wind Tower. Listen up, guard the Raven Wind Tower. We can't let that Ling Xiao go no matter what. He dared to hurt my brother. I'll kill him. This voice was undoubtedly the Raven Wind Tower's master, a third Grotto Heaven realm martial artist. He was the elder brother of Mang Yuan, whose tongue had been cut off by Ling Xiao. With such strength, he was willing to be a dog of the Black Python clan. There was no doubt that the first master of the Black Python clan was even stronger. What's going on? How did Ling Xiao provoke the Raven Wind Tower's master? This guy really doesn't care about the consequences. I'm afraid he won't be able to leave here alive today. Everyone was in a heated discussion. They were not in a hurry to leave because they wanted to see how capable Ling Xiao was. He actually dared to provoke Mang Xiao, Mo Xiaoyu, and Mang Yuan in public. He even provoked the Raven Wind Tower's master, Mang Tian. Ling Xiao smiled slightly. He had already kept a low profile this time. He didn't want to provoke any of these people. They were the ones who wanted to bully him, and he retaliated. Of course, he could choose to be a coward and not retaliate. But that was not his style. The reason Ling Xiao was able to reach where he was today was because of his fearless courage. Otherwise, he wouldn't have had so many fortuitous encounters. After all, every fortuitous encounter was fraught with danger. If it was someone who sought stability, they would never take the risk. But he will. He, Ling Xiao, had no one to rely on. He could only rely on himself. Therefore, he often had to do unexpected things. For example, today, no one dared to offend Mo Xiaoyu and Mang Xiao, and no one dared to bid for the Devil Fiend swords and Shadow Sword. But he dared. Therefore, the one who obtained these two sets of divine artifacts was him. Of course, his biggest gain today was still the Imperial Jade Seal. Others thought he was a sucker, but they didn't know that he was actually the biggest winner of today's auction. 2 million low-grade spirit stones allowed him to bid for the Imperial Jade Seal, the Imperial Jade Seal. Even he had never done such a good deal before. The owners of the 20 items received their items one after another. Ling Xiao also received the Devil Fiend swords, Shadow Sword, and Imperial Jade Seal. Even though Mo Xiaoyu was desperately glaring at him, warning him not to court death, he didn't care. But he didn't care. He didn't even look at Mo Xiaoyu. Mo Xiaoyu was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He swore that once he walked out of this auction house, it would be the time of Ling Xiao's death. Ling Xiao paid enough spirit stones and received his items. Then he put them into his storage ring in front of Mo Xiaoyu. Princess Yunya, you seem to know Ling Xiao? Just as Ling Xiao took the item but was blocked by the Black Wind Tower's guards and was unable to leave, a mischievous young girl appeared beside Yunya and asked with a smile. I was wondering who it was. So, it's the famous beauty, the pirate Hua Ying. Yunya glanced at the newcomer and said with a smile, Hua Ying was one of the beautiful captains of the famous twin Flowers Pirates. Together with her sister, Hua Floating Light, they were the absolute overlords of the waters around the city of Sin. Even the Emerald Wave Island, the Black Crow Empire, and the Divine Phoenix Empire had a headache because of them. Hua Ying's cultivation was slightly inferior, but she didn't lose to Mo Xiaoyu and Mang Xiao. Her sister, Hua Floating Light, was the scary one. Even the head of the Black Python clan had to give her some face. The Twin Flowers Pirates had business dealings with many companies. They promised not to rob these companies, but they had to pay them protection fees. So, their income was still very generous. Coincidentally, the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company had some business dealings with the Twin Flowers Pirates. Because of this, Princess Yunya knew Hua Ying and Hua Floating Light. Tell me about it. You know that pirates like us drift on the sea all year round, so we don't know much about the matters on land. Hua Ying asked excitedly, Haven't you heard of it? He was resourceful and destroyed the one. 2 million troops of the Black Crow Empire in one battle. He also killed Timur Mudu and captured Tomohiko Kuma alive. He even subdued the rebellious Scorpion tribe in the Black Desert. He broke into the Divine Phoenix capital, destroyed the Lightning Demon King, rescued the Northern Region King Jining, and was conferred the title of king. What was even more terrifying was that he went to the East County and quietly joined forces with Jining. He worked with Beihan and Tianli to destroy the powerful True Demon Empire and called himself the Celestial Emperor of the Celestial Empire. With such a reputation, how could you not know Hua Ying? Speaking of Ling Xiao's great achievements, Yunya couldn't help but feel a sense of pride in her heart. The world only knew about the things Ling Xiao had done, but she knew even more. As the Chosen One, he saved the sacred dynasty of the human race that was almost destroyed. He was also a mysterious super alchemist. TSK, no wonder he was so domineering and didn't even give face to Mo Xiaoyu and Mang Xiao. I thought he was just a newcomer who didn't know much about the world. Hua Ying's eyes flashed with a beautiful light. By the way, Princess Yunya, is he married? Why are you asking this? Is it because you have feelings for him? Princess Yunya felt a little uncomfortable in her heart. That's right. I, Hua Ying, need a strong and promising man to marry. If this Ling Xiao is qualified, I will marry him. Why not? Hua Ying didn't deny it. He is not married, but he has never been short of women around him. You saw the 2 women just now. Both of them are more beautiful than you. You don't deny it, right? Princess Yunya said. They're more beautiful than me, but they are not as powerful as me. Hua Ying smiled and said, Thank you, Princess Yunya. If I succeed with him in the future, I will definitely invite you to my wedding. After speaking, she disappeared into the crowd. This woman's disguise technique was too powerful. In the blink of an eye, she became ordinary. No one could tell that she was the famous Hua Ying. You are Ling Xiao? Mang Tian looked at the 16 or 17-year-old young man in front of him, full of a strong aura of brutality. Chapter 1195. Behind Mang Tian was Mang Yuan, whose tongue had stopped bleeding. However, Mang Yuan's tongue had been cut off, so he could no longer speak. He could only communicate with Mang Tian through his soul power or use hand gestures to express his thoughts. Ling Xiao glanced at Mang Yuan. Naturally, he knew what had happened. He smiled and said, So, you're the guard captain of the Raven Wind Tower. I spared your life previously, but I didn't expect you to deliver yourself to my doorstep. How dare you? This is the Raven Wind Tower, not a place for you to behave atrociously. Mang Tian rebuked angrily. Who is this idiot baring his fangs and brandishing his claws like a wild beast? Ling Xiao looked at Mang Yuan and asked. Mang Yuan was naturally speechless. At this moment, Mang Xiao walked over and said, Ling Xiao, you're in big trouble today. Mang Tian is one of my father's most capable subordinates. He's much stronger than me. Even I can't save you now that you've provoked him. Save me? You can't wait for me to die, right? After all, you've been taken advantage of. Ling Xiao glanced at Mang Xiao and mocked him. You really can't differentiate between good and bad. I'm here to help you, Mang Xiao said. Hee, I'm not blind. I won't mistake a wolf for a Qilin. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Mang Xiao, why waste your breath on this kid? He's offended all of us today. We have to get an explanation from him. I only want the Shadow Sword and the Ghost Fiend Mother-Child swords. The rest of his belongings are yours. At this moment, Mo Xiaoyu also came over. He was determined to get Ling Xiao. He didn't care about Ling Xiao at all. The battle hadn't even started, but they were already thinking about splitting the fruits of victory. Clearly, with so many people around, both Mang Xiao and Mo Xiaoyu were emboldened. Hee, brother Mo is right. Although Mang Xiao also wanted the Ghost Fiend Mother-Child swords and the Shadow Sword, he was more interested in the Moon Lady and Cold Plum. Seeing this, Mang Tian fell silent. Regardless of whether it was Mang Xiao or Mo Xiaoyu, he couldn't afford to offend either of them. Since these two young masters wanted each other's lives, wouldn't it be better for him to fulfill their wish? His goal was very simple. As long as Ling Xiao died, it would be enough. Whether or not he was the one who did it was not a problem. Brother Mo, Python Heaven, after this matter is settled, those two women will be mine. The Shadow Sword and the Demoness swords will be Brother Mo's, and the spirit stones on that brat will belong to you. Is that all right? Mang Xiao added. No problem. Mo Xiaoyu nodded. I'll listen to young master's instructions. Python Sky nodded. But Mang Xiao, which one of us will deal with that Ling Xiao? Mo Xiaoyu asked. He was somewhat wary of Cold Plum. I'll leave Ling Xiao to you. I'll deal with those two women. Mang Xiao chuckled. All right, it's a deal. Mo Xiaoyu sneered in his heart. He believed that Mang Xiao didn't know how powerful Cold Plum was, which was why he said such a thing. Little did he know that Mang Xiao was also mocking him for not knowing how powerful Ling Xiao was. The two of them were clearly working together, but in reality, one of them was plotting against the other. It was disgusting. This scene made many people in the crowd secretly shake their heads. This was great. Of all the people Ling Xiao could have provoked, he had to provoke Mo Xiaoyu and Mang Xiao. He even cut off the tongue of the Black Wind Tower's guard captain, Mang Yuan. They had seen lunatics before, but they had never seen such a lunatic. Now he was being treated as prey by others. There were many people in the world who were courting death, but this was the first time they had seen someone courting death in such a way. However, these people didn't know that when Mang Xiao set his sights on Cold Plum and the Moon Lady, he was doomed to a tragedy. In this world, there were some jokes that couldn't be made. There were some reverse scales that couldn't be touched. To Ling Xiao, family and friends were his reverse scales. At this moment, the Moon Lady and Cold Plum were his reverse scales. Since Mang Xiao and Mo Xiaoyu had touched his reverse scale, he had no intention of showing mercy. A cold, murderous aura was suddenly released, instantly enveloping Mo Xiaoyu and Mang Xiao. Some of the spectators who were competing with each other were also affected. At that moment, they felt as if their blood vessels were about to freeze. In the face of Ling Xiao's murderous aura, Mo Xiaoyu and Mang Xiao naturally wouldn't retreat. The two of them weren't ordinary people. It was impossible for them to be intimidated by Ling Xiao's murderous aura. A sinister smile flashed across Mang Xiao's eyes. He sized up Cold Plum and the Moon Lady with a blasphemous gaze. However, Mang Xiao wasn't in a hurry to make a move. Mo Xiaoyu knew that Mang Xiao was waiting for him. Then, he drew the cold black sword from his back. A black light flickered, exuding a powerful and cold aura. Let's do it together. Let's see if you capture those two women alive first. Or if I kill Ling Xiao first. After saying that, Mo Xiaoyu moved. With a slight step, the black sword in his hand trembled, and his entire body rushed out. Like a cheetah, he was filled with power and speed, turning into a gust of wind. The gust of wind wreaked havoc, and the surrounding buildings creaked. The friction between the black sword and the air caused explosions, creating loud noises. Just as Mo Xiaoyu made his move, Mang Xiao made his move as well. His entire body turned into a giant black python. He coiled and hissed as he soared into the air. The air was filled with an unpleasant stench. This stench contained a powerful poison. When it dripped onto the ground, it actually corroded the limestone floor. Almost all of the spectators retreated. The terrifying poison made them tremble, and they didn't dare to get close. They are indeed two geniuses. No wonder people call them the City of Sin's twin geniuses. It's because they love to appear in the City of Sin. They are also the most eye-catching. At the same time, their abilities are also the most outstanding among the younger generation. Yes, they are too powerful. Although they felt fear in their hearts, it didn't stop the crowd from admiring Mang Xiao and Mo Xiaoyu. Mo Xiaoyu's sword was sharp and cold. The ear-piercing whistling sound was like a death sentence. Mang Xiao's poison was eerie and terrifying. He, who had transformed into a black python, had become a truly ferocious monster. One was the young master of Emerald Ripple Island. The other was the young master of the Black Python clan. The two of them were not only well-known figures among the younger generation, but they also had powerful backgrounds. To provoke these two people at the same time, even if he died, it would be hard to sympathize with him. After this sword, Ling Xiao will definitely die. When the life-reaping sword is unsheathed, it must see blood. This is Senior Brother Mo's style. The disciples of Emerald Ripple Island watched this scene excitedly. That arrogant and proud Ling Xiao was finally going to die under Mo Xiaoyu's sword. Among his peers, almost no one could survive under Mo Xiaoyu's sword. Ling Xiao was no exception. No. Why is Ling Xiao facing Mang Xiao's young master? The crowd was shocked to find that Ling Xiao didn't care about Mo Xiaoyu's sword at all. Instead, he blocked Mang Xiao's path to attack the Moon Lady. To deal with these two pieces of trash, the Moon Lady and Cold Plum didn't need to make a move. He alone was enough. Chapter 1196. You're courting death. He'll definitely be poisoned to death by young Master Mang Xiao's poison. This bastard actually dares to face two powerhouses at the same time. The Black Python clan's ancient martial art practitioner was furious. This Ling Xiao actually wanted to fight two people at the same time. What a pity. He's going to die like this at such a young age. I can't bear to see it. In the crowd, Hua Luiying shook her head, helplessly. She originally thought that Ling Xiao would be a smart person, but now it seemed that Ling Xiao's brain wasn't as smart as she had imagined. Instead, he seemed like an extremely stupid fellow. If it were her, she wouldn't dare to face Mo Xiaoyu and Mang Xiao at the same time. It was possible to defeat them one by one, and it was the smartest method. Actually, there were many people who had the same idea as Hua Luiying. Most of the people in the crowd had the same idea. Precisely because of this, Mang Tian had no intention of attacking. He crossed his arms in front of his chest, waiting to reap the fruits of his victory. That's right. Logically speaking, how could an unknown young martial art practitioner in the City of Sin completely retreat from the joint attack of Life-Taking Sword and the young master of the Black Python clan? The only question now was who would kill Ling Xiao. No matter what the surrounding people said, Ling Xiao's expression remained calm. It was only when the two of them approached that the corner of his mouth curled up into a cold smile. It was the smile before killing. It was the smile of death. "Go to hell, I hate your smile." Mo Xiaoyu's voice was filled with anger and coldness. Rolling sword essence continuously attacked Ling Xiao. At that moment, he almost exploded with his strongest sword essence. In the air, a slender black sword pierced through layers of obstacles and finally arrived in front of Ling Xiao, stabbing towards Ling Xiao's throat. "To be honest, I really don't like your smile either. Go down and accompany my subordinates." Almost at the same time, Mang Xiao also attacked. The giant python opened its bloody mouth, and the poison of death completely enveloped Ling Xiao's body. For a moment, the crowd couldn't see Ling Xiao's figure clearly. Only the giant black python's shadow deeply shook everyone's hearts. "Die." Ling Xiao's voice was clear and indifferent, as if he was doing something ordinary. In that instant, his killing intent completely disappeared. Those with good eyesight would notice that the killing intent had completely merged with the shadow sword in his hand. This was the first time he had used the shadow sword. However, he was completely familiar with it. It looked like an ordinary move, but it carried the terrifying power of annihilation. At that moment, Mang Xiao and Mo Xiaoyu, who were already very close to him, revealed a trembling expression. They were scared. He was terrified the moment he touched her. Ling Xiao's body didn't move, but the shadow sword in his hand suddenly stabbed out. For a moment, it was almost impossible to see how he drew his sword. At the same time, Mang Xiao and Mo Xiaoyu's attacks also landed. Pooh! Blood splattered everywhere as his internal organs shattered. Mo Xiaoyu, who bore the brunt of the attack, was actually pierced by his own black sword. On his chest, there was a ghastly wound the size of an adult's head. Boom! Mang Xiao didn't fare much better than Mo Xiaoyu. He was also sent flying, spitting out large mouthfuls of blood. However, he was relatively lucky. He was actually wearing a powerful defensive magic treasure, which prevented him from being killed by the sword like Mo Xiaoyu. For a long time, the air was deathly still. Dead! Mo Xiaoyu is dead! Finally, a mournful ghost cry broke the silence in the air. This voice was filled with horror and disbelief. So it wasn't an illusion. Mo Xiaoyu is really dead. He was killed by his own sword. They couldn't be blamed for being so surprised, nor could they be blamed for thinking that this was an illusion. The dignified, deadly sword of Emerald Wave Island, Mo Xiaoyu, who was ranked third among the young experts, had actually died so carelessly. The life-reaping sword, which had been awe-inspiring and domineering just a moment ago, had now become a dead sword. However, Ling Xiao was unscathed. You actually killed senior brother Mo. You're crazy. You'll definitely die. You'll be put to death by 1,000 cuts by our island master. The young girl of Emerald Wave Island shrieked. She pointed a trembling finger at Ling Xiao as if she had gone mad. Back in the Black Street, she had constantly provoked and ridiculed Ling Xiao. At that time, Ling Xiao didn't care. After all, he had seen many women with such poor eyesight, so he didn't feel angry. But now, he wouldn't allow this woman to wantonly humiliate him anymore. You should have died when you were in the Black Street. I'm merciful. I'll give you a chance to start over. Ling Xiao suddenly took a step forward. The sublime shadow sword in his hand gently shook, and the golden crow flew out. The power was just right. It wouldn't hurt the people around, but it could cripple all the people of Emerald Wave Island. He didn't kill these people because they didn't attack him. Although Ling Xiao was ruthless, he was still a man of principle. The golden crow rising sun displayed by the sublime shadow sword was completely different from the golden crow sword. The sublime shadow sword was a flexible sword. The golden crow released was faintly discernible like a ghost. It was mysterious and unpredictable, and even harder to guard against. In terms of power, it was also superior. This was probably why the flexible sword was higher than the sharp sword. No, The disciples of Emerald Wave Island desperately tried to escape. Unfortunately, the Golden Crow spirit was faster than them. In an instant, their bodies were enveloped. Then they saw those people lying limply on the ground. Although they didn't die, their heavenly veins were all destroyed. At this time, they were exactly the same as ordinary people. If they wanted to reach today's realm, they could only cultivate again. That would be another painful experience. So powerful. What sword technique is that? Could it be that he has also reached the realm of flexible sword? In the crowd, countless people were amazed. In just a moment, Mo Xiaoyu was dead, and all the disciples of Emerald Wave Island were crippled. All of this happened in front of their eyes. It was so clear and so real. It was impossible for them not to believe it. Now that they thought about it, their previous thoughts were really laughable. Mo Xiaoyu and Meng Xiao actually wanted to join forces to kill Ling Xiao. They thought that the two of them would definitely win. However, the bloody reality told them that their eyes grew out to vent their anger. In the blink of an eye, Mo Xiaoyu was tragically killed, and Meng Xiao seemed to be injured. Ling Xiao was still standing there unscathed. The sublime shadow sword in his hand was emitting a terrifying, murderous aura. At this moment, they finally realized that Ling Xiao was not a lunatic. He was also not a fool. He dared to not give face to Mo Xiaoyu and Meng Xiao because he had more terrifying strength than the two of them combined. This guy was simply too terrifying. He was not a newborn calf at all. He was a ferocious monster. Terrifying. This is a true genius. When did such a terrifying genius appear in the heavenly dragon continent? His strength actually surpassed Mo Xiaoyu and Meng Xiao. Could he be a phoenix from the divine Phoenix Empire? Or a fiend from the Black Crow Empire? Chapter 1197. Young Master, are you okay? Mang Tian finally reacted and rushed over to support Meng Xiao. Fortunately, Mo Xiaoyu was the one who died and not Meng Xiao. Otherwise, he would have a hard time absolving himself from the blame. After all, this was the Raven Wind Tower. If Meng Xiao died here, he would definitely be the first person to be held accountable. I'm fine. Meng Xiao spat and touched the armor on his body that was flashing with purple light. He chuckled. Thanks to this treasure, that kid's attack only hurt me slightly. He looked at Ling Xiao, but his eyes were no longer aggressive and evil. Instead, they were filled with caution and disbelief. Just now, he teamed up with Mo Xiaoyu to fight against Ling Xiao. Although the two of them had no intention of working together, their powers were still combined. At that moment, Ling Xiao dodged both of their attacks and attacked them at the same time. Mo Xiaoyu died, and he was lucky to survive. Now that he thought about it, he was still scared. Two flowers that bloomed in a greenhouse. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. How shameless. You don't know how big the world is. If I drag you out, you're just two pieces of sh*t, useless trash. Ling Xiao looked at Meng Xiao emotionlessly and sneered. He said with disdain, Now I understand why you, Meng Xiao, don't dare to leave the City of Sin even though you're already half a step away from the Grotto Heaven Realm. It's because you're a coward. You don't dare to go out. If you go out, you won't even know how you died. Meng Xiao's expression was very ugly, but he didn't know what to say to refute Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao's strength was far beyond his expectations. He had never left the City of Sin. He only heard of Ling Xiao's name from his father. After seeing Ling Xiao's strength today, he suddenly understood how important the experience of the Jianghu was to a warrior's growth. Is the Black Python clan that powerful? The only reason you haven't been destroyed is because of the compromise between the various forces. Do you really think you're that powerful? With every sentence Ling Xiao spoke, he took a step forward. Although he had already put away the shadow sword, he didn't hesitate to release his overwhelming sword intent. Within the sword intent, the will of slaughter and destruction was condensed, becoming incomparably terrifying. At that moment, in Meng Zhao's eyes, Ling Xiao was not a person, but the embodiment of slaughter and destruction. He was a demon god. Such a sharp sword intent was capable of killing and destroying everything. In the profound world, there were many people who used the sword, so there were many outstanding people among them. However, those who could truly control their own sword intent, like Ling Xiao, were few and far between. At the very least, Mo Xiaoyu couldn't do that. This is his true strength. Mo Xiaoyu can only lower his head in front of him. Hua Luiying's eyes were glowing. This was the man in her heart, the kind of powerful man with potential that she pursued. Facing Ling Xiao, the rest of the Black Python clan's martial artists retreated with fear and trepidation. Previously at the stall, those people had hoped that Meng Xiao would kill Ling Xiao. However, at this moment, their teeth were chattering nonstop, and they couldn't even speak a complete sentence. So, clearly, Meng Yuan hid behind a group of guards. He finally understood that Ling Xiao wasn't lying. Ling Xiao had indeed been merciful when he cut off his tongue. Otherwise, with Ling Xiao's powerful strength, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill him. Meng Zhao's heart was trembling. Even Mo Xiaoyu wasn't a match for Ling Xiao. He didn't think that he could be a match for Ling Xiao either. At this moment, Ling Zhao's sharpness was even stronger than Mo Xiaoyu's. "Young master, don't be afraid. With me here, no one can hurt you." Meng Tian stood in front of Meng Xiao, looked coldly at Ling Xiao, and said, "You cut off my brother's tongue, and now you've injured the young master. I can't let you off. Do it, if you're still alive when you get close to me." Ling Xiao said indifferently, "Ha ha ha ha. You don't have to play tricks in front of me. You're indeed powerful, and I'm afraid that few below the Grotto Heaven Realm are your match. However, I'm a martial artist at the 3rd Grotto Heaven Realm. Do you think you have a chance of winning?" Meng Tian laughed loudly. "You can try." Ling Zhao's expression was still indifferent, and he didn't show any signs of fear. "Meng Tian, this kid is strange. You should be careful." Meng Xiao didn't know how strong Ling Xiao was, but he had already suffered at the hands of Ling Xiao. He didn't want Meng Tian to be at a disadvantage again. If even Python Sky died, then no one would be able to protect him. He didn't want to die. "Master Meng Tian, I advise you not to do it. This is for your own good." Suddenly, Hua Luiying walked out from the crowd and blocked Meng Tian's path with a smile. "Hua Luiying, when did you hook up with this kid?" Meng Tian frowned. If it was just Hua Luiying, he wouldn't be afraid. However, the problem was that Hua Luiying and Hua Fuguang were very close. If he killed or hurt Hua Luiying today, Hua Fuguang wouldn't let him go. "Just now, I suddenly fell in love with him." Hua Luiying winked at Ling Xiao in front of everyone and said with a smile, "Hua Luiying, this isn't the time to joke. If you dare to stop me, I'll have to kill you. After all, the life of our young master is the most important." Meng Tian said eerily, "Miss, please move aside. I don't want to implicate the innocent." Ling Xiao also looked at Hua Luiying. Although he appreciated Hua Luiying's kindness, he really didn't need help from outsiders now. Hua Luiying wanted to say something more, but suddenly a figure appeared behind Ling Xiao. Fast, unbelievably fast. The air was filled with the fragrance of plum blossoms. In the next moment, Meng Tian was stomped to the ground, and a sharp, broken sword was placed across his throat. How is this possible? Everyone was dumbfounded. It was Cold Plum who made the move. She knew that Ling Xiao didn't want to owe anyone a favor. Therefore, as Ling Xiao's bodyguard, she naturally had to make a move. It was just that the moment he made his move, it was simply shocking. That girl is so powerful. She's the real genius. She defeated Meng Tian, who's in the 3rd Grotto Heaven Realm, in one move. She's indeed a ruthless character. The crowd was discussing, and all eyes were focused on Cold Plum. Even Meng Xiao sucked in a breath of cold air. He didn't dare to imagine what would have happened if he hadn't attacked Ling Xiao, but this girl. "How about it, young Master Meng Xiao? I'll give you a chance. Let's fight one-on-one. If I lose, you can do whatever you want with me." Ling Xiao looked at Mang Xiao with a smile and said, "You can rest assured that Cold Plum won't interfere." Mang Xiao gradually calmed down. It seemed that today's matter couldn't be settled peacefully. Chapter 1198. Mang Xiao believed that he was no match for Cold Plum. However, if he were to face Ling Xiao, he might have a chance of winning. This chance of winning came from the martial soul of Tao Tai that he had just obtained. The Black Python clan had a special trait. They could swallow martial souls directly and digest them, turning them into their own strength. Thinking of this, Mang Xiao made a decision. He took out the martial soul of Tao Tai and swallowed it in one gulp. His body began to release rays of black and white light. His mouth let out a shocking scream of agony. Even the shadows of the battle between the Black Python and the Tao Tai could be seen behind him. All of this lasted for a long time. Ling Xiao could have interrupted it, but he did not do so. It would be too boring to interrupt. If his opponent was too weak, he would not be able to enjoy himself. Martial soul of Tao Tai. Good fellow. That lad actually forced young Master Mang Xiao to take the risk of swallowing the martial soul of Tao Tai. Even if he loses this battle, he should be proud of it. Lose? I don't think so. He could have stopped it, but he did not. This lad is a real lunatic. He needs an opponent who is on par with him. If that's the case, it's too scary. The discussion rose and fell, but it did not affect the process of Mang Xiao swallowing the martial soul of Tao Tai. At this moment, he was completely focused on using the martial soul of Tao Tai. He wanted to use this new power to fight with Ling Xiao. He had no other choice. This was his last resort. After a long time, Mang Xiao opened his eyes. His body seemed to be a size bigger than before, and his aura had become more evil and powerful. A ferocious and disdainful smile appeared on his face. "Do you know, Ling Xiao, you just made a big mistake." "Oh, this mistake is that you shouldn't have let me swallow the martial soul of Tao Tai. You should have stopped me in advance. In that case, you should have been able to defeat me. But now you can't. You don't understand how powerful and terrifying this power is. It will make you despair, and it will make you despair completely." At this moment, Mang Xiao no longer had the fearful expression from before. His arrogance and overbearingness had returned. A powerful and domineering aura erupted from his body. Ling Xiao was nothing in front of him. "Just based on the Tao Tai martial spirit you just obtained?" Ling Xiao asked with a smile. "You can still laugh now. You won't have the chance later. You don't know how important the Tao Tai martial soul is to our Black Python clan. According to rumor, the Black Python clan is a mixed-blood descendant of the Tao Tai. After our Black Python clan obtained the Tao Tai martial soul, not only were we able to completely grasp the abilities of the martial soul, we were even able to rely on the bloodline of the Black Python clan and the Tao Tai martial soul to comprehend bloodline supreme skills. My next move is the ultimate bloodline skill. I just gave it a name, Heaven-Devouring Python. You don't have to feel that it's a pity for you to die under my bloodline technique. You can still be proud of it in the future." As Python Xiao spoke, the shadow of a strange animal appeared behind him. It looked like a black python. It also looked like a Tao Tai. The strange giant beast stared at Ling Xiao as if it wanted to announce the end of Ling Xiao's life. Hua Luiying couldn't help but complain. Look, 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 look! I just gave you a look to kill him. Look, it's too late now, isn't it?" Many people had the same idea as Hua Luiying. After Mang Xiao swallowed the Tao Tai martial soul, the powerful aura was indeed much stronger than before. Perhaps even Ling Xiao couldn't be this guy's opponent. It was a bloodline supreme skill. Only warriors who had mastered the power of the bloodline and martial soul could use it. Ling Xiao was a human. He had a martial soul, but it was unlikely that he had a bloodline. Mang Xiao had already defeated him on this point. Bloodline supreme skill. I really want to see how powerful it is. There's no point in talking so much. Show it to me. Since I, Ling Xiao, dared to let you fuse with the Tao Tai martial soul, then I'm not afraid of your supreme skill. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. You should recognize the reality. The person standing in front of you isn't a mediocre warrior, nor is he an ordinary little genius. He's a true monstrous genius. Monstrous genius? This guy actually called himself a monstrous genius. That's too immodest. Many people showed a disdainful expression. They thought that Ling Xiao was someone who would shine if given a little sunshine. He was really arrogant. What was a monstrous genius? Even the 7 demons of the Black Crow Empire and the 10 great Phoenix sons of the Divine Phoenix Empire didn't dare to call themselves monstrous geniuses. This kid really knew how to brag. Monstrous genius? Hee, no matter what kind of genius you are, you'll die today. You asked for it, don't blame me. Heaven-devouring python. As the power of the python roar finished accumulating, a terrifying power gushed out from his body and gathered in the huge shadow behind him. The phantom became more and more real, and more terrifying. In the next moment, the monster roared. The entire city of Sin could hear this terrifying roar. Even the Black Wind House trembled from the roar. The heaven-devouring python's move was indeed powerful. The move wasn't strange, but it was filled with a terrifying power that could destroy the heavens and earth. Once it set its sights on a target, there was no way to escape. The moment the move was executed, a powerful suction force came out from the heaven-devouring python's mouth and pulled the opponent into its mouth. At this moment, Ling Xiao felt this way. His body involuntarily moved closer to Python Xiao. His 2 horns left 2 deep grooves on the ground. Python Xiao had never used this move before, but he knew how terrifying it was. This was 10 times stronger than his strongest move. It's over, it's over. My man is gone. Hua Luiying anxiously jumped and shouted. In the crowd, other than a few people who knew Ling Xiao well, the rest thought that Ling Xiao was dead for sure. The power of this move was too terrifying. This expert from the Black Python clan, who had devoured the martial soul of Tao Tai, was indeed different. Ling Xiao continued to move closer to Python Xiao and the bloody mouth. He didn't seem to be able to resist at all. Python Xiao, who was lying on the ground, suddenly laughed. It seemed like he didn't have to do anything. Ling Xiao was definitely going to die. The crowd seemed to have seen the scene of Ling Xiao being swallowed by the heaven-devouring python. You disappoint me. However, standing in front of the heaven-devouring python's bloody mouth, Ling Xiao's body suddenly stopped moving. He let out a sigh. He raised his hand slightly, and the shadow of the shadow sword flashed past. The gigantic monster phantom collapsed amidst its miserable cries. How could this be? Everyone was dumbfounded. In the face of Python Zhao's so-called bloodline ultimate skill, Ling Xiao broke it effortlessly. The process was so simple and effortless, just a casual swing of the sword. Was he still human? Chapter 1199. If it's not yours, it won't be yours. If it's mine, it'll still be mine. Do you know why I let you take the martial soul of Tao Tai? It's because I'll take it from you sooner or later. Ling Zhao's lips curled into a sinister smile. In the next moment, his left eye suddenly spun. Eye of the immortal pot, absorb! The monster's roar rang out again. The martial soul of Tao Tai was actually extracted from Mang Zhao's body by Ling Xiao. Mang Xiao wanted to resist, but it was useless. Under Ling Zhao's terrifying Tai Chi eye, he was like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He had no ability to resist at all. Bang! After extracting the martial soul of Tao Tai, Ling Xiao casually threw Mang Xiao away. Since you've given me such a generous gift, I'll spare your life for now. I've said before, I'm actually a very kind person. Looking at Mang Shao, who was lying on the ground with his body twitching nonstop, Ling Shao smiled slightly. He really felt that killing such a good-for-nothing would dirty his hands. In fact, from the beginning, Ling Shao had guessed that Mang Shao would definitely not let him go. In that case, he could save a lot of spiritual stones and snatch the martial soul of Tao Tai from Mang Zhao's hands. That would be a good deal. Mang Shao lay on the ground, trembling as he looked at Ling Shao. Gap! He had never imagined that there would be such a huge gap between them. He thought that he was already very strong, but reality slapped him hard in the face. He had once said that Ling Shao would definitely die and that Ling Shao would definitely regret it. But now, it seemed that everything he had done was so laughable. In front of Ling Shao, he was like an immature clown. What am I? Could it be that he's really a complete piece of trash like he said? Mang Shao began to doubt himself and his future. He began to question himself. Today's setback was too serious. He had already lost the ability to adjust himself. I thought that with the martial soul of Tao Tai, I could dominate the world and become the #1 person among the younger generation. But before I even left Sin City, I've already lost. And I lost so miserably. Mang Shao laughed bitterly. Perhaps Ling Shao was right. He was really a flower in a greenhouse. He was just a good-for-nothing who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. He was even a little envious of Mo Xiaoyu. Once he died, he wouldn't have to feel sad. He didn't have to worry about being ridiculed by the people around him. Once he closed his eyes, everything was over. Ling Shao did not look at this dispirited fellow anymore. Instead, he turned his gaze to Mang Yuan. I've said it before. If you find trouble with me again, I'll definitely kill you. Unfortunately, you didn't listen. You actually brought your brother to find trouble with me. Since that's the case, I'll fulfill your eagerness to die. Ling Shao laughed coldly. He flicked his right hand and a shadow all shot out. It was aimed at Mang Zhao's vitals. How tyrannical. Killing as he pleases. Isn't this too tyrannical? Hua Feiying's eyes widened. As for the rest of the spectators, they felt a huge impact in their hearts. This Ling Shao was indeed terrifying. How dare you! A big hole was created in the dark wind house. An old man fell from the sky and slammed his palm on Ling Zhao's shadow all. Boom! The shadow all exploded in the air and shattered into pieces. Kid, haven't you heard of mercy? You cut off my son's tongue, and now you want to kill him. Do you really think he's a fatherless child? The old man was Mang Tian and Mang Yuan's father. He was even stronger. At least he was born without a father. Otherwise, he wouldn't have become like this. Ling Shao said calmly, Little be *starred. I would have killed you if you weren't the divine phoenix Empire's Dragon King Tian. I wouldn't have let you scream here. The old man was more powerful, so he was more domineering. He could kill Ling Shao if he wanted to. With his strength, he could do it. You don't have to do that. Just like your precious son. Try and see if you can kill me. Ling Shao looked at the old man and had no intention of backing down. Are you threatening me with Mang Tian? The old man looked at Mang Tian, who was threatened by Cold Plum. He was afraid of hurting Mang Tian. Ling Shao is smart. With a hostage, even if the Black Python clan comes, they won't dare to do anything. I don't think he'll let Mang Tian go. Someone said, I think so too. Mang Tian will be dead if he lets him go. Someone at the side agreed. Cold Plum let Mang Tian go. I want to see how this old man is going to take my life. Ling Zhao's words made the jaws of the crowd drop to the ground. How could that be? He let go of a hostage just like that. Was he really not afraid of death? All right. Since you want to die, I'll fulfill your wish. The old man smiled maliciously. He wanted to tear Ling Shao into pieces, but his son Mang Tian was being held hostage. He had no choice but to hold back. But now he had no more scruples and could make his move. The old man transformed into a black python and was much bigger than Mang Shao. His ferocious aura was not something Ling Shao could withstand. However, Ling Xiao's eyes suddenly lost their luster, as if he had fainted. His arms drooped. In the next moment, his eyes shone brightly again, but with more maturity and experience. The old man sensed that something was wrong, but he could not tell what it was. Moreover, he was already at the point of no return. At that moment, he was already 3 to 5 meters away from Ling Xiao. He swung his right hand, which turned into a huge python tail, and swung it at Ling Xiao. This Ling Xiao is really too careless. Isn't he just courting death? He deserves to die. He actually dared to let go of a hostage in the face of a Grotto Heaven realm warrior. I can't think of any other reason other than stupidity. The crowd once again broke out into discussions. Most people could not understand Ling Xiao's actions. Of course, there were also people who noticed the strange change in Ling Xiao. Die! The old man roared, accompanied by the might of the black python. His right hand grabbed Ling Xiao's head. However, at that moment, Ling Xiao's face showed a smile that had never been seen before. It was a smile that looked down on him. It was a smile that only a person who had been at the top for a long time would have. A powerful aura instantly spread throughout the entire Raven Wind Tower. Everyone could see the life in the world withering rapidly. What's going on? My life force is slipping away. Me too. What's going on? Many people were shocked, including the fathers of Mang Tian and Mang Yuan. Slap. A crisp slap sounded in the Raven Wind Tower. The black python evil aura disappeared without a trace. Chapter 1200. This slap is to tell you that you shouldn't bully the weak just because you have some strength. Everyone looked at Ling Xiao in disbelief. Ling Xiao had actually slapped the old man's face. Who was that person? That was the second head of the Black Python clan, Python Yuntu. He was a dignified, Fifth Paradise realm powerhouse. At this moment, the Python Cloud Atlas was directly embedded into the wall with a single slap. How ironic was this scene? Was Ling Xiao someone he could kill just because he wanted to? Obviously not. How can Ling Xiao be so powerful? Could he be a Paradise realm powerhouse? Is he even stronger than Python Yuntu? Many people were confused. Even Yinya was confused. In her opinion, no matter how fast Ling Xiao's cultivation improved, it was impossible for him to be stronger than Python Yuntu's. Actually, she wasn't wrong to think that way. Ling Xiao hadn't relied on his own strength to send Python Yuntu flying. He had relied on the power of a Yuan Venerate. A Yuan Venerate was just a spiritual body. Ling Xiao could temporarily give his body to a Yuan Venerate to use without any repercussions for a certain period of time. However, it would naturally become troublesome after a long time. That clear, arrogant gaze appeared once again. Ling Xiao looked at the python Yuntu embedded in the wall and thought that his master strength was really extraordinary, considering the endurance of his body. The Yuan Venerate hadn't used his full strength. However, he had still easily sent Python Yuntu flying with a slap. Second head of the Black Python clan, I'll give you some face today. Take your people and scram. When you return, you'd better tell your first head that I, Ling Xiao, am not here to find trouble with you, so you'd better not make me angry. Ling Xiao looked down at the battered and exhausted Python Yuntu and said coldly, "Let's go." Python Yuntu walked out of the wall, grabbed Python Xiao and Python Yuan in one hand, and left in a hurry. I'll tell the first head what you said, but I'm not sure if he'll let you off. Python Yuntu's voice was heard a moment later from afar. It was obvious that he was dissatisfied and indignant. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. He had the Moon Lady and Cold Plum by his side. Now that he had the help of a Yuan Venerate, he was practically invincible in Sin City. If anyone dared to find trouble with him, they would only be unlucky. He wouldn't suffer any losses. Sister Moon Maiden, Cold Plum, let's go. After this short battle, it could be said that he had gained a lot. In addition to stealing from Mo Xiaoyu, He also got a storage ring from his finger. There were many spirit stones and martial arts manuals in it, as well as a medicinal pill worth more than 10 million low-grade spirit stones. In addition, he also obtained the martial soul of Tao Tai, which Meng Xiao had spent a huge amount of low-grade spirit stones to obtain. This deal was really worth it. Of course, the most important thing was that he had achieved his ultimate goal, which was the Imperial Jade Seal. As for the special effects of the Imperial Jade Seal, he would have to carefully study it in the future. After all, this was an item that had been passed down since ancient times. It would definitely be very different from ordinary artifacts. Young hero Ling, why don't you come to my place to rest for a while? Princess Yun suddenly walked over and said, "It just so happens that I suddenly thought of something. It's a very important matter that I need your help with." "Is it about medicinal herbs?" "How did you know?" Young hero Ling, what else could it be other than medicinal herbs? It can't be about romance, right? Yun said with a smile. "Ha ha, Princess Yun really knows how to joke. Why don't we go to your place and talk while eating?" Ling Xiao said with a smile. No problem. Yun had always thought highly of Ling Xiao, so she wanted to befriend Ling Xiao. She had helped Ling Xiao a lot back in the Divine Phoenix capital. Now that she had seen Ling Xiao defeat Mang Yuntu so easily, although she didn't know the reason, she felt that she might have underestimated Ling Xiao a little too much in the past. Since there was an opportunity this time, she had to get close to him properly. A moment later, everyone arrived at Yunya's residence. This was a courtyard close to the Black Wind building. The servants inside were all provided by the Black Python clan, but this didn't prevent them from eating. During the meal, Ling Xiao raised his request. It turned out that when the Yuan Venerate had borrowed his body, he had discovered that his body was very harmful to external souls. If he wanted to do this many times, he would have to refine a kind of soul-molding pill. This would prevent the Yuan Venerate's soul from suffering too much damage and help Ling Xiao to his heart's content. With the help of the Yuan Venerate, Ling Xiao would have an additional layer of insurance. Even if he encountered danger, he wouldn't lose his life. Refining the soul-molding pill required a few key medicinal herbs. Yun said that there was no problem after looking at them and could completely leave this matter to her. Furthermore, she actually had these medicinal herbs on hand. Originally, she had wanted to bring them back to the Divine Phoenix Empire's Sky Dragon auction house. Since Ling Xiao needed them, there was nothing wrong with her taking them out. Yun ordered her maidservant to go and get the medicine. However, after waiting for nearly an hour, the maidservant came back, but her hands were empty. There was even an obvious trace of being whipped on her face. "What's going on? Who dares hit you here?" Although Yunya was concerned about the medicinal herbs, she was still very concerned about the maid who had always been by her side. Therefore, the first thing she asked was who had hit her maid. The maid cried and said, "It was Captain Mang Yuan. He also said that he had already given the medicinal herbs to someone else. He hopes that you won't mind." "Mang Yuan." Yunya's face darkened instantly as she slammed her palm on the table angrily. The hardwood table fell apart on the spot. "This bastard. This is my residence. What right does he have to come in and take away my medicinal herbs? How dare he not give me a heads up? Hee. It seems that I went a little easy on him. Does this guy really think that I don't dare to kill him?" Although Ling Xiao's face was full of smiles, his smile wasn't very pleasant. He didn't kill Mang Yuan when he was at the Black Wind Tower because he didn't want to completely become enemies with the Black Python clan. However, he didn't expect that his good intentions would be treated as ill intent by others. "When did he take away the medicinal herbs?" Yunya asked. "Just now, when Princess and you were eating. I saw that he did it on purpose." The more the maid spoke, the more agitated she became. "Just him alone?" Ling Xiao asked. "No, there's also his father. He's the one who was sent flying by young Master Ling Xiao with a slap." The maid replied, "Python Cloud Portrait? He good. You really have guts. You didn't take my threat seriously at all. Ling Xiao smiled slightly. It seemed that his idea of peaceful coexistence was unlikely to be realized. However, when he thought about it, it made sense. He had directly destroyed Meng Zhao's cultivation and cut off Mang Yuan's tongue. This was a great humiliation for the powerful Black Python clan. How could they reconcile with him? Chapter 1201. Have they left? Yunya asked. They just left. If we chase them now, we should be able to catch up with them. The maid did not want to suffer this kind of grievance. She was slapped for no reason, and half of her face was swollen. How could she let it go? Let's go. Take me to them. Yunya stood up with a gloomy face and said, Our Heavenly Dragon Trading Company gave face to the Black Python clan, not because we are afraid of them, since they want to shed all pretense of cordiality. Let's see who is more powerful. Yes, Your Highness. The maid nodded and was about to leave when she heard Ling Xiao say, There's no need to go. They are here. As soon as Ling Xiao finished speaking, an old voice came from outside the door. What? You think you can do whatever you want in the City of Sin just because you are from the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company? You crippled the young master of my Black Python clan, cut off the tongue of my good grandson, Mang Yuan, and slapped my son, Mang Yun too. I took some of your medicinal herbs as a warning. As the voice sounded, an old man walked into the room. This old man looked much older than Mang Yun too. His beard almost reached his chest, and he looked very elegant. However, his eyes were very sinister, like a pair of sharp eagle eyes. Behind this old man was Mang Yuan, who looked smug, and Mang Yun too, who looked angry. Mang Yuan glared at Ling Xiao fiercely. His eyes seemed to say, Kid, you are dead meat. With my grandfather's help, no one can save you. A half-step Yin-Yang realm expert? Ling Xiao frowned slightly. No wonder Mang Yuan did not learn his lesson and was not afraid of his threats. It turned out that there was such an expert in the family. I was wondering who it was. So it is the left guardian of the Black Python clan, Mangfeng. Are you the one who stole our Heavenly Dragon Trading Company's medicinal herbs? Facing Mangfeng, Princess Yin, you did not back down. In terms of cultivation, she was not inferior to Mangfeng. In terms of power, her Heavenly Dragon Trading Company was not inferior to the Black Python clan. She had no reason to be afraid of this old man, and she had no reason to let him do whatever he wanted in her house. Little girl, don't think too highly of yourself. You can't represent the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company. Mangfeng smiled and said, You actually helped others to deal with the Black Python clan. This has already aroused the resentment of your superior, Zhang Tianda. The Moon Lady was just an ordinary woman. She didn't seem to have any martial arts skills. Although Cold Plum was powerful, she was not as powerful as him. As for Ling Xiao, although he slapped Mangfeng's son, Mangfeng thought that Ling Xiao was at most at the 6th Grotto Heaven realm. Ling Xiao might be able to sneak up on Mangfeng's son, but he was no match for Mangfeng. Since that was the case, Mangfeng had nothing to fear. Anyway, the great master had given him full authority to deal with this matter. He must not damage the dignity of the Black Python clan. Wasn't that asking him to regain his lost dignity? Since that was the case, there was no need for him to be polite. Haha, I'm afraid that your Black Python clan has already offended someone you shouldn't have offended. Let me give you a piece of advice. It's not too late to stop now. Otherwise, your Black Python clan won't be finished just like this. If you insist on going your own way, the Black Python clan might cease to exist in the City of Sin. Although Yunya's words were not pleasant to hear and were very direct, they were all true. She believed that with the Moon Lady's power, it wouldn't be difficult for her to eliminate the Black Python clan. Ha 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 ha. Mangfeng suddenly laughed out loud. Little girl, There aren't many forces in the Heavenly Dragon Continent and the Divine Phoenix Continent who dare to threaten the Black Python clan. Unless the people you mentioned have the power of the Five Immortals Island, they really don't have the right. Ignorant and arrogant. Yunya shook her head, helplessly. She looked at Ling Xiao and said, "Young hero Ling, I'm really sorry that you have to encounter such a situation. But don't worry, I'll find a way to gather the herbs for you. Well, we're a little tired today. Princess Yunya, please arrange 3 rooms for us so that we can take a rest." Ling Xiao didn't want to fight in Yunya's house. "Young man, unfortunately, I'm afraid you won't have the chance." Mang Feng suddenly looked at Ling Xiao coldly and said, "The most important thing for you now isn't to rest, but to make a choice." "Oh, what choice?" Ling Xiao asked with interest. "It's very simple. You can choose to cut off your own tongue, destroy your own cultivation, and then let my son give you a tight slap. Otherwise, you can choose to die." Mang Feng looked at Ling Xiao contemptuously and said, he seemed to think that he was being merciful enough to give face to the other party. Mang Five, that little fellow, really doesn't make any progress. He actually taught such a useless guardian who doesn't know the big picture. "Do you want the Black Python clan to fall completely?" Suddenly the Moon Lady spoke. Even Ling Xiao was shocked by her words. What was going on? Who was Mang Five? However, he was only shocked and confused. To Mang Feng, the Moon Lady's words were no different from thunder ringing in his ears. At that moment, he froze and couldn't say anything for a long time. "Who is Mang Five?" Ling Xiao asked Yunya. Yunya smiled bitterly and said, "Mang Five is the taboo name of the Black Python clan's first master. Ordinary people don't dare to call him by this name, let alone call him little fellow. Your girlfriend really gave me a shock." When Ling Xiao heard this, he suddenly understood. Mang Five was definitely one of the top 10 powerhouses in the Heavenly Dragon Continent and the Divine Phoenix Continent. In the underground world, this fellow was worshipped like a god. Many underground organizations worshipped Mang Five's living shrine. If the Moon Lady's words were spread to the underground world, there would be countless people coming to kill the Moon Lady. Mang Five would definitely fly into a rage. *TCH. How dare you call our first master's name directly and call my grandfather a piece of trash? You must be tired of living. Mang Yuan roared recklessly, as if he didn't see the current situation clearly. The Moon Lady only lightly drew an invisible mark in the air, and Mang Yuan was directly sent flying. He hung on the ceiling and couldn't get down no matter how hard he tried. It was as if he was stuck there by some special glue. Moreover, that position was really uncomfortable. Chapter 1202. Senior, please have mercy on me. I have failed to recognize you. I will teach my grandson a lesson when I return. At the end of the day, Mang Feng was an expert with sharp eyes. He was different from Mang Yuan, who was an idiot. From the moment the Moon Lady made her move, he realized that he was no match for this woman. After all this time, the person he looked down on the most turned out to be his biggest opponent. "Old man, you don't deserve to call yourself old man in front of me. Furthermore, you have no right to interfere with who I want to teach a lesson to. Even if I kill your grandson today, he deserves it. If you dare to plead for him, I will make the Black Python clan disappear from the mystic world." The Moon Lady leaned against the wall and spoke in an indifferent tone. She didn't even look at Mang Feng. These harsh and domineering words made Mang Feng's face turn pale. Since the establishment of the Black Python clan, Mang Feng had never been wronged like this. No one had ever dared to speak to him like this. "Why are you looking at me? Go and retrieve the herbs. Bring back as much as you took. You only have 15 minutes. After this time, I don't mind making your entire family disappear." The Moon Lady's voice was still indifferent, and her expression was as calm as water. Even though Mang Feng's expression was ugly, she didn't give him any face. "You are indeed an expert. but you are too arrogant to humiliate me like this. Do you really think I am afraid of you? Mang Fong was a domineering person after all. He had been a tyrant in the city of Sin for a long time. The Moon Maiden's words had already caused him to lose his cool and his rationality. He couldn't tolerate this anymore. His face was as cold as ice, and the faint shadow of a black python appeared behind him. This old man was going to make a move. You don't know your place. Hearing Mang Feng's words, Ling Xiao shook his head. It was fine to offend him, but to offend the Moon Lady, wasn't that asking for death? The Moon Lady lifted her head and looked at Mang Fong. Then she opened her red lips and said, Are you serious? That's right. Even if you are a dragon, you have to be careful in the city of Sin. Since Mang Fong had already said those words, he wasn't afraid of offending the Moon Lady. Very good. The Moon Maiden sneered. She raised her hand and aimed it at Mang Yuan, who was nailed to the ceiling. Stop! Seeing that the Moon Lady was about to attack, Mang Tempest roared and dashed forward, grabbing at the back of the Moon Lady's head. He was trying to stop the Moon Lady from attacking his grandson. The Moon Maiden maintained her calm expression and raised her jade-like hand. While Python Fong was still in the middle of his attack, Python Yuan's head was already separated from his body. Then, the Moon Lady turned around again and gently slapped Python Wind's chest. This speed was simply unfathomable. Ling Xiao was extremely excited. He was usually known for his speed, but when he saw Moon Maiden attack, he was extremely envious. Boom! Although the Moon Lady's hand was very light, Python Wind was in a very difficult situation. The internal energy that had been surging was forcefully slapped back into his body. It exploded in his body. For a time, Mang Fong was bleeding from all 7 orifices, looking extremely miserable. It was only because Mang Feng's body was tough enough that he was only injured. Otherwise, he would have been smashed into pieces. Python Yuntu, who was standing behind Mang Fong, was dumbfounded. With just a casual attack, Mang Yuan's head was separated from his body. Even Mang Fong was severely injured. Just how powerful was this woman? His body began to tremble violently like a sieve. Father, are you all right? After a long while, Python Yuntu finally realized and helped Mang Fong up. However, his eyes were fixed on the Moon Lady, afraid that she would attack again. However, the Moon Lady had no intention of attacking again. She just sat there and leaned against Ling Xiao like an obedient little lamb. It was as if everything that had just happened had nothing to do with her. A Yin-Yang realm expert. Mang Fong did not even have time to look at his grandson, who had been killed. He looked at the Moon Lady in horror. There were definitely no more than 12 of such powerful existences in the Sky Dragon continent and Divine Phoenix continent. He was injured without even seeing how the other party attacked. Compared to the physical pain, he was more afraid in the depths of his heart. His death is your responsibility. The Moon Maiden glanced at Mang Fong indifferently and said, I don't think I need to repeat myself. 2 minutes of the 15 minutes have already passed. If the medicinal herbs don't appear here by the time is up, I will kill you, even if I have to kill my way to the Black Python clan. There was no hatred in Mang Feng's heart at this time. All he felt was fear. He even hated his grandson, Mang Yuan. How could he have offended such a terrifying person? Yuntu, go and bring the medicinal herbs here. Quick! Mang Fong shouted at Python Yuntu. Yes, father. Python Yuntu also understood that the woman was definitely not joking. With such powerful strength, if she really wanted to kill them, it would be a piece of cake. He turned and hurried out of the room. Looking at the embarrassed look of this family, Princess Yunya felt very refreshed in her heart. She had already warned these people not to offend Ling Xiao, but they did not listen. She had heard of the Moon Lady's strength before, but she had never had the chance to see it with her own eyes. Today, she suddenly felt that the Moon Lady might be more terrifying than the rumors said. What method did Ling Xiao use to make such a tyrannical existence his girlfriend? Princess, Yunya could not understand. She felt that this was a little unbelievable. Mang Fong, why don't you deal with your grandson's body? Are you waiting for me to do it for you? She looked at Mang Fong and said, I'll do it. Mang Fong still felt like he was dreaming, but this dream was a nightmare. It was because of his impulsiveness and recklessness that his grandson was killed and he himself was injured as well. There were many people in this world that could not be offended. If you offended such people, even if you were wronged, you could only endure it. There was no other way. Strength was everything. By the way, Yunya, your Heavenly Dragon Trading Company has such a big network. Why don't you help me find something that can remove the ancient seal in my body? The Moon Lady suddenly asked Yunya. In the past, because she had long lost her pursuit in life, she did not care much about the improvement of her strength. She also did not have much motivation to remove the seal in her body. But it was different now. She had Ling Xiao. She hoped that her strength could continue to improve. At the very least, she wanted to restore her cultivation to that of the ancient times. That way, she would be able to better protect Ling Xiao. Although she knew that with Ling Xiao's aptitude, he would soon reach her level of cultivation or even surpass her level of cultivation. But she still wanted to help her man as much as possible. This was her only goal in life now. Chapter 1203. The Power to Remove the Primordial Seal. Hearing this, Yunya felt a little troubled. However, this was the Moon Maiden's request, so she naturally had to do her best. To be honest, that kind of thing is really hard to find. However, don't worry. I have information on all the medicines and mysterious items of the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company. Please wait a moment. I'll help you check if there is such a thing. Thank you. It's best if you can find it. If you can't, then forget it. After all, that kind of mysterious item is not often encountered. The Moon Maiden did not make things difficult for Yunya. After all, she could also see that Yunya was on Ling Xiao's side. Yunya smiled and then temporarily left to search for information. Ling Xiao, the Moon Maiden, and Cold Plum sat there drinking tea and chatting. The broken table had long been replaced, and the smell of blood at the scene was gone. After a while, Yunya returned with an apologetic smile on her face. I'm sorry, Your Highness. I've checked the direction of the goods that came in from the Heavenly Dragon Trading Company, but I couldn't find the treasure that can remove the primordial seal. The Moon Maiden was obviously a little disappointed, but she still smiled and said, It's okay. Ling Xiao grabbed her hand and comforted her. Sister Moon Maiden, don't worry. With Yunya's help, that kind of treasure will be found sooner or later. Little guy, I don't need you to comfort me. The Moon Maiden flicked Ling Xiao's forehead and smiled very brightly. To her, Ling Xiao's concern was more important than any treasure. Looking at the two of them, Yunya secretly made up her mind. After returning to the Heavenly Dragon Auction House, she would contact the people of the trading company to see if she could find such an item in other continents. After all, the closer one was to the Gate of Heaven's Chosen, the more rare and strange treasures there would be. This had become a general rule. As she was thinking, she heard messy footsteps not far away. Hee, less than a quarter of an hour. This group of people is quite fast. Ling Xiao chuckled. It was good to be powerful. If the Moon Maiden did not help today, Python Wind would definitely not be so obedient. Senior, these are the herbs. We have preserved them very well and did not dare to waste them at all. Mang Fong looked at the Moon Lady with trepidation as he placed all the herbs on the table. He was very glad that he didn't sell these medicinal herbs to others. Otherwise, he might really have to run for his life today. If this woman really wanted to attack him, even the first head of the Black Python clan wouldn't be able to help him. Yunya, please take a look. Are there enough medicinal herbs? Are there any damaged ones? Ling Xiao said with a smile. Yunya opened the box containing the medicinal herbs and counted them carefully. When she found that there was no problem with the quantity and quality, she nodded and said, "Don't worry, there's no problem. It's the batch of medicinal herbs I lost. I'll pick out the ones you need for you later." "All right, then I'll have to trouble you. Sister Moon Maiden, what do you think we should do with the Black Python clan?" Ling Xiao asked the Moon Maiden. "You deal with it." The Moon Maiden couldn't be bothered with these trivial matters. "All right, Mangfeng, go back and tell your first head that I intend for everyone to coexist peacefully. However, if someone insists on provoking me, I won't be careless." Ling Xiao smiled and waved his hand. "Go back. I don't need you here." Mangfeng felt extremely uncomfortable when he heard Ling Xiao's words. However, at this moment, he couldn't do anything about it. With the Moon Maiden around, he didn't dare to touch Ling Xiao at all. He could only endure the humiliation and go back. He would definitely report the matter regarding the Moon Maiden to the first head, Mang Wu. Mang Wu should have an idea as to what to do. "All right, Princess Yunya, we can't delay your work. You do what you need to do. We'll go and rest first. If there's anything, just let us know. We're all friends." Ling Xiao stood up. He had been busy for a long time today. He wanted to go back and practice the shadow sword. After all, he had just gotten the sword and hadn't fully mastered it yet. Just as he stood up, someone came to look for Yunya. "Princess Yunya, Fluttering Snow of the Divine Phoenix Empire is here to look for you." Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire? Ling Xiao couldn't help but frown when he heard this name. When he was in the Divine Phoenix capital, he didn't get along well with Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire. However, there wasn't any deep hatred between them. Why is she looking for me? She actually came to the City of Sin? Yunya was also a little surprised. Logically speaking, even if Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire wanted to look for her, she should have waited until she returned to the Divine Phoenix capital. Why did she come here? It must be something important. "Princess Yunya, you can go and do your work. Don't mind us. Just let your maid take us to our rooms," Ling Xiao said with a smile. "Then I'll be rude." Yunya smiled apologetically. Then she ordered her maid to take Ling Xiao and the other two to their rooms. She went to meet Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire. Actually, she was also quite curious about Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire. After all, Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire was not an ordinary woman. Her true identity was related to a certain big shot of the everlasting Joy Immortal Island. Ling Xiao returned to his room and sat down to ponder the usage of the shadow sword. After using the soft sword, the power and ruthlessness of his moves had obviously increased. However, because of the changes in his moves, it was very difficult to control most of the time. Therefore, he had to practice it again. When Ling Xiao finished practicing all the sword moves and was about to rest for a while, there was a knock on the door. "Young Hero Ling, it's me, Yunya." Ling Xiao opened the door curiously and welcomed Yunya in. He asked, "Has the guest left?" "Yes." Princess Yunya nodded and said, "But there's something I should talk to you about. It might be related to the Moon Maiden." "Oh, then I'd like to hear it. Could it be that the treasure that Sister Moon Maiden wants has been found?" Ling Xiao asked. Young Hero Ling is really smart. "That's right, there is indeed news." Princess Yunya nodded and said, "Don't tell me that thing is related to Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire?" Ling Xiao asked with a smile. "You can even guess that?" Yunya asked in surprise. Ling Xiao waved his hand and said, "It's not a strange thing. You couldn't find anything after investigating for a long time. In the end, after seeing Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire, you said that there was news. Then this thing must be related to Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire." "Yes, it is indeed related to Fluttering Snow of the Phoenix Empire." Yunya nodded and said, "As far as I know, there's a kind of flower on the everlasting Joy Immortal Island that blooms once every 300 years. It's called the Everlasting Joy Flower. This flower is very magical. If its petals are used to refine medicine, They can be refined into a very outstanding spice. And if a sachet made of this spice is worn for a long time, it can constantly remove the power of the ancient seal. The everlasting joy, immortal island. Fluttering snow of the Phoenix Empire. So, the rumors I heard before are true. This fluttering snow of the Phoenix Empire is really related to the everlasting joy, immortal island? Ling Xiao didn't expect that he would actually confirm something here. Chapter 1204. Yes, she does have something to do with the Changel Celestial Island. She came to me this time to ask for help. Princess, Yunya replied, I don't understand. What does the Changel flower have to do with her asking for help? Is she willing to use the Changel flower as a reward? But the problem is that the flower doesn't mean much to you, right? Ling Xiao asked curiously. That's not it. Yunya explained, it's like this. An elder of the Phoenix cries Piao Shui in the Changel Celestial Island fought with the masters of the Blackwater Celestial Island and was seriously injured. His injury is very strange. We have found many pharmacists, but they can't cure the injury. Every time it rains, he will feel unbearable pain all over his body. It's better to die. Even a master of the Yin-Yang realm can't resist it. What I mean is, young Hero Ling, your medical skills are superb. Why don't you give it a try? If you can save his life, then the Changel flower is nothing. Even the hundreds of thousands of medicinal herbs I promised you before will be no problem. Don't tell me that the master you were looking for is this elder of the Phoenix cries Piao Shui? Ling Xiao smiled bitterly. It's true. It's just that I didn't know before. If the Phoenix cries Piao Shui didn't come to me this time, I would have been kept in the dark. Yunya explained. I see. But Princess Yunya, have you thought about it? Although my medical skills are good, I'm only a high-level yellow-level pharmacist. I believe that there should be top-level yellow-level pharmacists on the Changel Celestial Island, or even yellow-level super pharmacists. But they can't cure the elder's injury? Ling Xiao asked. They really can't solve it. It can be said that they are helpless because the biggest problem with this injury is that they can't find the cause. If they have a strong analytical ability and find the real cause, then the treatment will be much easier. Yunya explained. So you came to me? Ling Xiao thought that Princess Yun, you really thought highly of him. Although Ling Xiao, was better than ordinary pharmacists, he probably couldn't solve the problem that even yellow-level super pharmacists couldn't solve. That's right. That's why I'm here to look for young Hero Ling. This is also an opportunity for you. What did the everlasting joy immortal island not have? They came to the City of Sin because they want to see if there are any alchemists who stand out in this year's alchemy competition. They are just trying their luck. Princess Yunya nodded and said, This old man has an extraordinary status in the Changel Celestial Island, so the Changel Celestial Island is willing to pay any price for him, including the Changel flower. You can even take the opportunity to extort them and get some good stuff. That's fine. I understand. The reason why Phoenix Cry and Piao Shui are looking for you is probably because you have a wide network of connections. So, they hope that you can help them find a powerful alchemist. Ling Xiao suddenly understood. That's not the only reason. Yunya smiled and said, Young Hero Ling, don't forget, when we were in the Divine Phoenix Empire's capital, everyone knew that I knew an alchemist who could refine perfect medicinal pills. It was precisely because of this that Feng Ming and Piao Shui came to find me. Hee, since that's the case, I'll give it a try. However, I can't guarantee that I'll succeed. Ling Xiao had to get the Changel flower for the Moon Lady. As for other treasures, he didn't care much about them. It's not enough to just give it a try. It's best if you succeed. Otherwise, you might as well disguise yourself. This way, even if you fail, you won't become enemies with the Changel Celestial Island, Yunya reminded him. The everlasting joy immortal island is not an ordinary place. The people there are high and mighty. They think that they control the world, so their temper is very bad. If you do anything wrong, They will probably kill you on the spot. Disguise myself? Why would I disguise myself? I'm going to treat a patient openly, not steal. If that old man doesn't believe me, then I won't save him." Ling Xiao waved his hand and said. He didn't believe that the experts of the Chang'e Celestial Island would be so cowardly and discerning. Even if Phoenix Cry and Piao Shui didn't want him to save the patient, that old man would definitely do it. Moreover, he wasn't just saving the Chang'e flower. He also wanted the old man of the Chang'e Celestial Island to owe him a huge favor. If he had to disguise himself, then what was the point? "Are you really confident?" Yunya asked worriedly. "Don't worry, of course I'm confident." Ling Xiao nodded. His confidence didn't only come from his mountain and river martial soul, but also from the existence of a Yuan Venerate. If a Yuan Venerate couldn't treat the old man of the Chang'e Celestial Island, then there was probably no other alchemist in the world that could do it. Ling Xiao had always been swift and decisive when it came to handling matters. Since he had decided to look for Phoenix Cry and Piao Shui, there was no need to hesitate. Phoenix Cry and Piao Shui are currently staying in the Black Python clan's residence in Sin City. You must be careful when you go there. This is my recommendation letter. Yunya handed the recommendation letter to Ling Xiao and reminded him, "That place can be said to be a dangerous place for you. You must be careful. If you really can't do it, just run away. I know that your movement technique is very powerful." Ling Xiao took the recommendation letter and smiled. "Thank you for your concern, Princess Yunya. I understand." After leaving Princess Yunya's residence, Ling Xiao followed the map that Yunya had given him and arrived at the Black Python clan's headquarters. It was actually very easy to find this place. Apart from the Black Wind Tower, this was the tallest and most luxurious building in Sin City. Ling Xiao didn't know that after he left, the Moon Lady and Cold Plum had quietly followed him without him noticing. These two probably wanted to protect him in secret. When Ling Xiao arrived at the entrance of the Black Python clan's residence, he was surprised to find that there were already many alchemists gathered there. Among them, there was no lack of high-level and mid-level yellow-grade alchemists. There were even top-level yellow-grade alchemists and super-yellow-grade alchemists. Ling Xiao reckoned that these alchemists were probably powerful alchemists from the 5 Immortal Island. They all wore their alchemist badges on their chests, so their alchemist grades could be clearly identified. After all, alchemist grades were also a symbol of status and identity. Ling Xiao didn't have this habit. He didn't like to announce that he was a high-level yellow-grade alchemist unless it was necessary. The street in front of the Black Python clan's entrance was filled with people, all of whom were powerful martialists. However, these people looked at the alchemists with reverence and admiration. Although the alchemists' cultivation might not be as good as theirs, they were still worthy of respect. This was because, in the mystic world, alchemists were a magical and noble profession. There was no doubt about this. Even the guards at the entrance of the Black Python clan, who were usually fierce, were respectful when facing these alchemists. They didn't dare to neglect them, let alone provoke them. The consequences of provoking these people were no different from poking a hornet's nest. Chapter 1205. The head of the Black Python clan had given the order to gather all the pharmacists in the city of Sin to diagnose the old man's illness. At the very least, they had to be a yellow-tier advanced pharmacist. As long as they were qualified, the guards would let them in. Of course, even if they weren't qualified enough, the guards wouldn't chase them away recklessly. They would only persuade them to leave. Who knew if these pharmacists would be highly sought after in the future? They couldn't afford to offend them. Ling Xiao was at the back of the line, waiting for these people to examine him. Other than the guards of the Black Python clan, there was also an old man who was drinking tea. The old man was around 50 years old and was wearing the standard uniform of the Chang'e Immortal Island. The symbol of the Chang'e Immortal Island was the Chang'e flower, which was very easy to recognize. Ling Xiao guessed that this person was probably sent by the Phoenix Cry, Piao Shui, or the expert from the Chengel Immortal Island to select the pharmacists. After a long time, it was finally Ling Xiao's turn. A guard walked up and looked at Ling Xiao's chest. Seeing that there was no badge, he couldn't help but frown. However, his attitude was quite good. "Young hero, we need a yellow-tier advanced pharmacist today. Did you come to the wrong place?" Ling Xiao smiled and took out his pharmacist certificate. He handed it to the guard and said, "This is my pharmacist certificate. Take a look and you will know." The pharmacist certificate was the key to proving one's identity. The badge could be forged, but the pharmacist certificate couldn't be forged. Even if it was forged, it could be identified through the Pharmacist Association's database. "You are a yellow-tier advanced pharmacist." It was obvious that the guard didn't believe it. After all, Ling Xiao looked like a 16 or 17 years old young man. How could he be a yellow-tier advanced pharmacist at such a young age? His first thought was that the pharmacist certificate was forged and that this person was trying to harm the expert. Therefore, his expression turned cold. He returned the certificate to Ling Xiao and said, "Young hero, you should leave." "Leave? Didn't you hire a yellow-tier advanced pharmacist or above?" Ling Xiao frowned and asked the guard, "Kid, I'm giving you face, so I'm speaking politely. Don't push your luck. Do you really think you can sneak into our Black Python clan's estate by casually forging a certificate?" The guard finally revealed a slightly ferocious expression and spoke in a threatening tone. "Pa!" A loud slap resounded outside the Black Python clan's mansion. Ling Xiao coldly looked at the guard in front of him and said, "Forging a pharmacist certificate? Do you know the consequences of framing a pharmacist, especially a Huang high-level pharmacist?" What happened? The sound of the slap startled the old man who was drinking tea. He hurried over to inquire about the situation. "Elder Tong, this person faked his apothecary certificate in an attempt to bluff his way through. I stopped him, but he still attacked." The guard said loudly, "Pa." It was another slap, but this time it was on the right side of the guard's face. This time it was on the left side. Both sides of the guard's face were swollen, but it looked balanced. "Hula!" This time, the dozens of guards standing at the entrance of the Black Python clan rushed over and surrounded Ling Xiao. "Wait a minute." The old man from the Everlasting Joy Celestial Island waved his hand and then looked at Ling Xiao and said, "I'm Tonggang, the servant of the Everlasting Joy ancestor. Little brother, are you really a Huang high-level pharmacist?" "Elder Tong, my apothecary certificate is right there. You'll know whether it's real or not after checking it. Would you believe me if I told you?" Ling Xiao said faintly, "Take it for inspection." Tonggang was very cautious. Since the mountain river martial spirit reappeared in the mystic world, monstrous geniuses had emerged in large numbers. He didn't want to offend anyone who might become an overlord. A moment later, Tonggang's subordinate returned and said respectfully, "Elder Tong, this person is indeed a Huang high-level pharmacist. He just passed the assessment at the Heavenly Dragon Continent's Magic City Pharmacist Association." "Is it true?" The Black Python clan's guard who was slapped suddenly forgot about the pain and looked at Ling Xiao like a fool. He really didn't expect Ling Xiao to be a Huang high-level pharmacist. "Haha, this young hero is really talented. I didn't expect you to have such a level at such a young age. I almost misjudged you. Please come in. Someone will take you to the residence of the Everlasting Joy ancestor." Tonggang chuckled and gestured for him to enter. Although Tonggang claimed to be the servant of the Everlasting Joy ancestor, his strength was so strong that he was probably a realm lord. A Grotto Heaven realm expert was even stronger than Mangfeng. "Thank you." Ling Xiao nodded and walked inside. When he passed by the guard who was slapped, he said, faintly, "Be careful in the future. Don't look for trouble. It's not easy to live. If you offend someone you shouldn't offend, I'm afraid you'll lose your life." I understand. Although the Black Python clan's guard was slapped, he didn't have any resentment in his heart. Instead, he felt very lucky. Today, he had been beaten up. If this continued, he might even lose his life if he met a cruel person one day. These 2 slaps could be said to have woken him up and saved him. Little mister. When Tong Gang sent Ling Xiao through the door, he changed the way he addressed him. He said with a smile, "If little mister can heal the injuries of our everlasting joy ancestor, then we'll be friends of the everlasting joy immortal island." I don't dare to say anything about other places, but at least in the heavenly dragon continent and the divine phoenix continent, our words carry a lot of weight. I also hope that we can become friends. No one liked to make enemies. Ling Xiao was the same. However, he wanted to rely on his own ability to make friends and make others respect him. He didn't want to be a yes man and sell his dignity to make friends. When he stepped through the door, a beautiful servant girl walked over to lead the way. Tong Gang turned around and walked out of the door to continue selecting pharmacists. Following behind the servant girl, he enjoyed the fragrance of flowers and birds in the surroundings. Ling Xiao couldn't help but sigh in his heart. This Black Python clan was indeed the #1 clan in the city of Sin. The construction of this mansion was almost the same as the imperial palace of the divine Phoenix Empire. It was simply luxurious. As he walked, Ling Xiao felt many pairs of eyes spying on him in the darkness. There were even some soul powers seeping out from every corner, locking onto his every move. Interesting. The security of this Black Python clan seems to be even stricter than that of the Black Wind Guild. No wonder the Black Python clan can sit back and relax. Ling Xiao smiled slightly. This Black Python clan wasn't as fearless as the rumors said. At the very least, this kind of security proved that they were afraid of being attacked. "Young master, we've arrived. The place where the everlasting joy ancestor is recuperating is just ahead." When they arrived at the entrance of an elegant courtyard with fresh air, the servant girl leading the way turned around and informed him. Ling Xiao nodded. Actually, he had already seen many pharmacists standing in the courtyard. The lowest level of these pharmacists was yellow-level, high-level pharmacists. Moreover, they weren't young anymore. Chapter 1206. Some of the pharmacists were waiting anxiously. Some were thinking hard with their heads lowered, and some were discussing something in low voices. However, when they saw a 16 or 17-year-old youth suddenly enter the courtyard, they all revealed an astonished expression. One had to know that the youngest person here was over 40 years old. Ling Xiao's age was really too young. Ling Xiao didn't care about these people's doubtful gazes. Instead, he walked into the courtyard. There was a pavilion with a chair inside. An old man was lying on it, and Fengming Piao Shui was accompanying him. Ling Xiao was looking at Fengming Piao Shui, and Fengming Piao Shui also noticed Ling Xiao. "Why are you here?" Fengming Piao Shui wasn't very happy to see Ling Xiao. This guy didn't give her any face when they were in the divine Phoenix capital. He actually contradicted her in front of others, which made her very angry and unhappy. "Why? Do you know each other?" Although Changle Patriarch was injured, his speech and walking were still relatively normal. Fengming Piao Shui asked the young man who had just arrived, "Grandfather, this guy is the Ling Xiao I was talking about. He's too arrogant. He didn't give me any face and embarrassed me in front of my peers." Fengming Piao Shui shook Changle Patriarch's arm and said, "Hee, so he's the Celestial Emperor Ling Xiao of the Celestial Empire. Interesting. I didn't expect him to be so young." Changle Patriarch looked at Ling Xiao with interest in his eyes. "Grandfather, help me teach him a lesson. Otherwise, I'll lose a lot of face." When Phoenix Cry Piao Shui was in the Divine Phoenix Academy, she had a completely cold and aloof appearance. But in front of this everlasting joy old ancestor, she suddenly became a delicate girl. It was really unknown which was her true face. Piao Shui, don't mess around. Those who came here today are all here to treat your grandfather's injuries. How can you teach him a lesson? A middle-aged man who looked to be in his 40s shook his head with a bitter smile and said to Fengming Piao Shui, "Is he worthy of treating my grandfather's injuries? If he can really cure my grandfather, I'll marry him." Piao Shui's face was filled with disdain. Although she knew that Ling Xiao knew some medical skills, her grandfather's injury was a big problem that even a yellow-level super pharmacist couldn't solve. With Ling Xiao's ability, how could he solve it? "Lady Piao Shui, I can't afford it." Ling Xiao said indifferently. "What did you say?" Phoenix Cry, fluttering snow, couldn't believe it. "Could it be that I'm not worthy of a human like you?" That asterisk, 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 and Laozu's expressions were ugly. After all, Feng Ming and Piao Shui were their relatives. To be looked down upon like this was not giving them any face. This isn't a matter of whether I'm worthy or not. I've only come here for one thing, and that's the everlasting joy flower of the everlasting joy celestial island. As for other things, I haven't considered them yet. Ling Xiao said calmly. "Looks like you're pretty confident. All right then, stand aside. If you can really heal this old man's injuries, not to mention the everlasting joy flower, this old man can even give you something more valuable than the everlasting joy flower." Laozu had a request after all, so he didn't insist on blaming Ling Xiao. However, like Piao Shui and Piao Shui, he didn't take Ling Xiao's word seriously. He felt that it was a young man's arrogance that wasn't worth mentioning. Ling Xiao cupped his hands and stood aside to wait. About 15 minutes later, Tong Gang led the last batch of pharmacists into the side courtyard. "Everyone, no one knows the exact condition of our Laozu's injuries. It's precisely because we can't find the cause that we can't treat it. With so many pharmacists here today, I believe that with everyone's combined efforts, there will be a way. Let's begin. Everyone, according to the order you entered, come forward one by one," Tong Gang announced. "As long as you can find the cause of the Laozu's injuries, you'll receive a generous reward. If you can treat it, the reward will be doubled." Hearing this, the pharmacists all lined up. Ling Xiao wasn't in a hurry. He found a place to sit down and then drank tea while watching the performance of those people in front of him. The diagnosis process of these people was also a reference for him. The first to diagnose the cause of Laozu's injuries was a white-bearded old man. He was estimated to be over 100 years old. Moreover, he was a yellow-level super pharmacist, the strongest among the yellow-level pharmacists. However, after more than 10 minutes, he shook his head helplessly and said, "Sorry, this old man is incompetent. I can't actually determine the cause of the Laozu's injuries. This injury is really strange. I really can't find out what caused it." Piao Shui, and Tong Gang didn't look disappointed when they heard this because they had already expected this result. After all, before coming here, they had tried to get the pharmacists on Laozu to diagnose the Laozu, but they couldn't find the cause either. The old man walked to the side but didn't leave. After him, many pharmacists rushed over excitedly and then shook their heads helplessly. Unexpectedly, no one was able to diagnose the true cause of Laozu's illness, let alone treat it. "Sigh, this old man has already said that it's pointless to come here. Which alchemist on Everlasting Joy Immortal Island isn't better than the alchemists here? You guys just had to come here and torment people." It seemed that Ling Xiao was the only remaining pharmacist who had yet to make a move. The Everlasting Joy Patriarch was thoroughly disappointed and even a little angry. He came to the city of Sin from the Changlu Celestial Island with a sick body. That was quite a torment, so of course he felt uncomfortable. The pharmacists who had already made the diagnosis had ugly expressions, even though they were very indignant about Patriarch Changle's words. However, they had to admit that they couldn't make a proper diagnosis. They could only hang their heads and sigh helplessly. "Senior, you're wrong. The alchemists of the Chang-Lu Celestial Island are not necessarily better than the alchemists of the City of Sin. If they were better, then Senior wouldn't need to come here. At this moment, a cold and arrogant voice rang out, attracting everyone's attention. It's him. Everyone looked and saw that the person who spoke was the young man who was drinking tea. Impudent! How dare you speak to my grandfather like that? Fengming Piao, Shui said furiously. The surrounding pharmacists who had failed looked at Ling Xiao with anticipation. They were also unhappy with Laozu's words, but they didn't dare to refute. Since Ling Xiao stood out, they naturally supported him from the bottom of their hearts. They just didn't dare to say it out loud. Impudent! Didn't your family teach you to treat an alchemist who came to save a patient with such an attitude? I think you're trying to kill your grandfather, right? Ling Xiao glanced at Fengming Piao Shui and suddenly retorted. I didn't. Fengming Piao Shui was at a loss for words. She didn't know how to refute Ling Xiao because Ling Xiao was right. Chapter 1207. Shut up if you don't have such thoughts. Ling Xiao glanced at Fengming and Piao Shui and said, also, the pharmacists who came here today, regardless of whether they can diagnose the cause or not, have worked hard. You didn't even say a word of thanks. Don't tell me you think you're so superior that you're used to looking down on others. Tonggang, did you hear that? Pay them for their hard work later. We can't let others think that the everlasting joy Celestial Island doesn't know etiquette. The Changle Patriarch looked at Ling Xiao with a fierce glint in his eyes. However, he still ordered Tonggang to do as Ling Xiao said. He didn't like this young man. This young man was too arrogant. Little brother, you've said so much just now. Are you confident that you can cure my injuries? After instructing Tonggang, the everlasting joy ancestor turned to Ling Xiao and asked, confident? May I ask if the strongest pharmacist in the everlasting joy Celestial Island has the confidence to cure your injuries? Ling Xiao retorted. Good lad, your words are sharp. That's right. Even the strongest pharmacist in the everlasting joy Celestial Island can't cure my injuries. But he doesn't dare to be so arrogant in front of me. What about you? I believe you have your reasons for being so arrogant, right? The everlasting joy ancestor said with a smile. Are you threatening me? Ling Xiao asked coldly. The everlasting joy ancestor was stunned. He had been roaming the Jianghu for so many years, but he had never seen such a young man who wasn't afraid of his threats and even dared to go against him. That's right. This old man is threatening you. If you can't diagnose the cause of this old man's illness, then be prepared to receive this old man's fury. If you can really diagnose the cause of this old man's illness, then this old man will apologize to you in front of these people. His attitude suddenly became resolute. There's no need for an apology. If I diagnose the cause of my injuries, you have to give me 3 everlasting joy flowers. If I'm cured, you have to give me another 10 everlasting joy flowers. How about that? Ling Xiao didn't care about apologies. What he wanted now was the everlasting joy flowers, and the more, the better. You're really asking for an exorbitant price. The everlasting joy flower blooms once every 300 years. Even the everlasting joy immortal island only blooms a total of 20 flowers. You dare to ask for 13 flowers? Everlasting joy said with a smile. Is your life worth less than 13 flowers of Zhongla? Ling Xiao asked. Haha, good. Since you are so confident, then come and give it a try. This old man agrees to your request. The Changle ancestor did not like Ling Xiao's arrogance because he felt that Ling Xiao had no reason to be arrogant. However, if Ling Xiao could really heal his injuries, then it would not be arrogance but true ability. He would not hate it. On the contrary, he would do everything in his power to make friends. Enough nonsense, let's begin. Ling Xiao walked towards the everlasting joy patriarch and then stood there without moving. What? Are you scared? The everlasting joy patriarch asked with a smile. It's not too late to give up now. If I give up, you'll be the one dead. Stop pretending. You don't seem to know that you've been poisoned, right? Ling Xiao's voice was cold and unyielding. You're just a patient in front of me now. Don't think of yourself as some patriarch. Grandfather, this guy is too arrogant. He's here to take advantage of you. Don't be fooled by him. Fengming Piao, Shui said loudly. Noisy. Go and get a chair. Do you want me to stand here and heal? Ling Xiao glared at Fengming Piao Shui and said, What right do you have to order me? Fengming Piao Shui also glared at Ling Xiao. Tong Gang, go and get a chair. This little brother is interesting. The everlasting joy patriarch was extremely shocked. The fact that he had been poisoned was pointed out by a black-grade alchemist who passed by the everlasting joy immortal island. Unfortunately, the alchemist's price was too high. Even if the entire everlasting joy immortal island were to be sold, it would not be enough. Therefore, the everlasting joy patriarch was unable to treat him. Today, Ling Xiao actually said the same thing. How could he not be shocked? Wait, I'll let her go. Ling Xiao did not believe it. Fengming Piao Shui, didn't you insist on acting cold in front of me? Didn't you look down on me? Then I'll let you serve me. Fengming Piao Shui, wasting a breath of time is wasting your grandfather's chance to heal. Don't blame me for not reminding you. I'll go. Fengming Piao Shui seemed to really love her grandfather. When she heard Ling Xiao's words, she hurriedly brought a chair and placed it behind Ling Xiao. After Ling Xiao sat down, the everlasting joy patriarch hurriedly asked, Little brother, how did you know I was poisoned? Also, what kind of poison was I poisoned with? You don't need to know the diagnosis method. It's a professional secret. As for this poison, it has never been recorded in the medical books of the mystic world. However, I was fortunate enough to read a medical book from outside the mystic world that mentioned this poison. It's called white blood poison. Ling Xiao continued to examine the everlasting joy patriarch's body as he answered. White blood poison. This poison is truly unheard of. What's so terrifying about it? Asterisk, 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 asked from the side. After being poisoned with white blood poison, you won't die immediately. Instead, it will gradually destroy your body. Even if you're a powerful yin-yang realm warrior, you won't be an exception. Ling Xiao answered, Fever is one of the most common symptoms of white blood poison. It manifests as different degrees of fever and fever. The main cause of fever is infection. Among them, angina, stomatitis, and perianal infections are the most common. Pneumonia, tonsillitis, gingivitis, perianal abscesses are also more common. Ear inflammation, enteritis, carbuncles, and pyelonephritis are also common. In serious cases, sepsis, and so on can occur. Although the average person wouldn't understand Ling Xiao's words, the pharmacists present understood very well. In fact, they had also discovered that the everlasting joy patriarch had similar symptoms. However, the problem was that they didn't know the exact cause of the illness, so they couldn't treat it. The symptoms of white blood poison aren't just fever. The most obvious symptoms are bleeding. The bleeding can occur throughout the entire body. Bleeding from the skin, gingiva, and nasal cavity are the most common. There can also be bleeding from the retina, the ears, the brain, the digestive tract, the respiratory tract, and other internal organs. Ling Xiao continued, Yes, that's right. There are indeed such symptoms. At this moment, the everlasting joy patriarch no longer had his previous domineering and arrogant attitude. In front of Ling Xiao, he was just a frightened patient. In addition, there may be symptoms of anemia. The patient is often accompanied by weakness, a pale complexion, palpitations, shortness of breath, edema of the lower limbs, and other symptoms. Senior's condition is already quite serious. Ling Shao touched the severely edematous lower limbs of the everlasting Joy Patriarch and said. At this moment, the pharmacists standing at the side all stared with their eyes wide open. At first, they only felt that Ling Shao could speak for them. Therefore, they had a good impression of Ling Shao, but they definitely didn't admire him. But now they had already expressed a kind of lofty admiration. Chapter 1208. A young man who was only 16 or 17 years old was able to accurately describe the discomfort caused by the white blood poison that came from outside the mystic world. This guy was simply a genius in the world of pharmacists. It would be strange if they did not admire him. Senior is still relatively lucky. The white blood poison has been suppressed by your powerful inner strength. It has yet to enter your spirit, sea, and heart meridians, so it has not caused any more serious danger. Ling Shao said after checking, "That means there's still hope?" Changle Ancestor hurriedly asked, "Of course." Ling Shao nodded and said, "Although the white blood poison is powerful, there is a special treatment method recorded in the medical book that came from outside the mystic world that can help to expel the white blood poison. Little sir, if there's any method, just say it. Whatever you need, this old man will definitely do it for you." Changle Ancestor was a little anxious. These days he had been tormented by the poison miserably. It could be said that his life was worse than death. Moreover, he could clearly feel that his body's condition was continuing to deteriorate step by step. If this continued, he might become a cripple sooner or later. He had worked hard for so many years to cultivate to the yin-yang realm. How could he be willing to die like this? "You'll have to ask your family about this." Ling Shao glanced at Fengming Piao Shui and said with a smile, "Ling Shao, you don't have to look at me. If you need me to do anything for grandfather, I'll definitely do it." Fengming Piao Shui said firmly, "Oh, what if you want to use your life to exchange for Changle Ancestors?" Ling Shao asked with a faint smile. "What?" As soon as he said this, everyone was stunned. Everyone's expression was different. It could even be said that it was somewhat interesting. This old man has seen this treatment method in the medical book. It's exchanging a life for a life. A yellow-level super pharmacist stroked his beard and muttered to himself, "I've also heard of it, but this method is too cruel, so I've never learned it." Another pharmacist nodded and said, Fengming Piao Shui clearly believed Ling Shao when she heard these two people's words. Her body suddenly began to tremble. Death was something that should have been far away from her, but she didn't expect it to be so close to her now. "Little mister, if you must sacrifice your life, let me do it. Lady Piao Shui is still too young." Tong Gang was the first to speak. "Are you a direct descendant of the Changle Ancestor?" Ling Shao asked. "No. If not, then don't say anything because it's meaningless. It has to be a direct blood relative." Ling Shao shook his head. "What about me? I'm the Ancestor's daughter. Can I do that?" That thought for a while and finally spoke. "Can I? I need to check it first." As he spoke, Ling Shao suddenly raised his finger, and a cold light flashed past. That woman felt as if she had been pricked by needles, and then she didn't feel any pain. "No, although you are his biological daughter, you don't match him." Ling Shao shook his head and looked at Phoenix Cry Piao Shui. "Didn't you say that you would do anything for your grandfather? Why are you suddenly mute?" "I'm willing." Phoenix Cry Piao Shui suddenly raised her head. Although her eyes were filled with tears, her eyes were very determined. Oh, her reaction surprised Ling Shao. It seemed that although this girl was spoiled and unruly, she was quite affectionate and righteous. "Little mister, is it really only a life for a life? Is there no other way?" The Changle Ancestor was a little hesitant at this moment. He really couldn't bear to take his granddaughter's life to save him. He also felt a little disdainful. "No, Ling Xiao answered very seriously. The Changle ancestor closed his eyes and pondered for a long time. There was obviously some helplessness and regret on his aged face. Forget it. Perhaps this is my fate. I still have to thank little mister for helping me diagnose the cause of the illness. Tong Gang, go and prepare the reward. 3 Changle flowers. Hearing this, Ling Xiao's lips curled into a smile. In fact, he could have turned around and left at this moment because he had already obtained the Changle flowers. Although there were only 3 flowers, it should be enough to make a pretty good sachet. However, he didn't leave. It should be said that this family's performance had moved him. Senior, your choice saved you. After saying that, Ling Xiao suddenly pointed at Phoenix Cry Piao Shui. Phoenix Cry Piao Shui initially wanted to resist, but in the end, she chose to accept it calmly. No, the Changle ancestor and **** wanted to stop him, but Ling Xiao's attack was too sudden. Furthermore, the Changle ancestor was poisoned. **** wasn't very strong, so it was impossible for them to stop him. As for Tong Gang, he didn't plan on stopping him. After all, the Changle ancestor was more important than Phoenix Cry Piao Shui in his heart. What are you all so nervous for? I was just joking. There's no need to exchange a life for a life. I just need to borrow a bit of Phoenix Cry Piao Shui's bone marrow. Ling Xiao smiled and said, That's why I said that Senior Changle ancestor's choice saved you. If you had chosen to ignore Phoenix Cry Piao Shui's life and insisted on surviving, I would really have left you in the lurch. Are you serious? The Changle ancestor and the others were overjoyed. Of course. I, Ling Xiao, don't save people for money. I only care about my heart. If I hate someone, I will never save them. Fortunately, I don't hate your character. Although you were a little arrogant before, it's understandable that you have such a strong cultivation and are an elder of the Changle Immortal Island. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Young sir, this old man doesn't know what to say. The Changle ancestor was really shocked and emotional. Although the young man in front of him was young, he was very mischievous. He really couldn't keep up with the pace of many of his actions. However, he really liked this young man. He did things according to his heart, regardless of what others said. All right, let's not talk nonsense. Phoenix Cry, Piao Shui, you should also lie down by the side. You might feel intense pain later, but it won't hurt your body. You must endure it. It will be over in about an hour. Ling Xiao instructed. All right. Phoenix Cry Piao Shui had already wiped away her tears. Suddenly, she felt that Ling Xiao didn't seem as annoying as before. For some reason, she even felt a little grateful to this man. If it hadn't been for this man, she wouldn't have known that her grandfather cared so much about her. The pharmacists beside them had never seen the treatment process before. Even the Yuan Venerate in Ling Xiao's body had never seen it before. All of this was a treatment method that Ling Xiao had created based on the new memories in his mind. It was very easy to use the martial techniques of the mystic realm to achieve this. It was even 100 times easier than in the mystic realm. Phoenix Cry Piao Shui bit the towel in her mouth. It was obvious that she was in a lot of pain, but this girl had actually endured until the end. Chapter 1209. All right, it's over. Later, I will prescribe some medicine. You can ask other alchemists to help you make them. If you take them consistently, both of your bodies will recover quickly. After the treatment, Ling Xiao let out a sigh of relief. The treatment process seemed simple. However, without the help of the Tai Chi Eye, the slightest mistake could have cost both of their lives. I didn't expect that at such a young age you would have the ability to reverse the situation. I am completely convinced. I will have to trouble you from now on. The Changle ancestor was truly convinced. In his life, he rarely convinced others. However, the young man in front of him, who was only 16 or 17 years old, had such unfathomable medical skills. He couldn't help but believe that there really were monsters in this world. You don't have to praise me. I didn't help you because I was doing a good deed. I need to be rewarded. Ling Xiao said calmly. Hearing this, the Changel ancestor admired Ling Xiao even more. Any ordinary person would want to get close to him when they encountered such a situation. They would definitely be so proud that their tails would be wagging. However, this Ling Xiao was still so calm. It was as if this treatment wasn't worth mentioning at all. This is the prescription and the method to make the medicine. I believe that even a high-level Huang-level alchemist can make it. If you have any questions, feel free to find me. I will be in the city of Sin for the next few days. Ling Xiao wrote down the prescription and refining method of the medicinal pills used for recuperation. These weren't rare items, so it didn't matter if they were leaked. He didn't care too much. Tong Gang, pass on my message. Tell the Changel Celestial Island to bring all the Changel flowers that are currently blooming to the city of Sin. The Changel ancestor suddenly said to Tong Gang, Are you sure you want all of them? Tong Gang asked doubtfully, Yes, all of them. This young man is my savior. It's just a few dozen Changel flowers. Do you want me to be stingy? All right, I will pass on the message right now. Tong Gang turned and left. Ling Xiao also said, If there's nothing else, I have to go back. When the Changel flower arrives, have someone send it directly to Princess Yunya's residence. Since little mister is in such a hurry, I won't stay any longer. I will be staying in the city of Sin for a while and will only leave after the alchemy conference ends. If little mister encounters any trouble, you can come and find me. Patriarch Changel did not know how to repay this young man for saving his life. Therefore, he decided to help if he could. Thank you. Ling Xiao cupped his fists towards everyone, and then he left the Black Python clan's estate under the accompaniment of that woman. When the other pharmacists saw that Ling Xiao had left, they were too embarrassed to stay and chose to leave one after another. Only the yellow-tiered super pharmacist stayed behind. Apothecary Lin, I'll have to trouble you to refine these pills. Remember, before you refine them, check them to see if there are any problems. Although Patriarch Changel was grateful to Ling Xiao, he had already been poisoned once, so it was inevitable for him to be cautious. He did not suspect Ling Xiao, but he felt that Ling Xiao was too young. The previous treatment methods might have been taught by an expert, and he was afraid that the expert behind Ling Xiao would plot against him. Therefore, he had to check if the medicinal materials were harmful. Patriarch, don't worry. I know. Apothecary Lin left with the prescription, but Fengming Piao Shui lay there in a daze. She did not speak for a long time, and there was a strange look in her eyes. Ha, little girl, your heart is rippling. Do you want me to help you set them up? I think Ling Xiao is not bad. Whether it is his appearance, cultivation, or his pharmacist level, he is a first-class talent. My Piao Shui will not feel wronged if she marries him. Patriarch Changel said with a smile, Grandfather, what are you talking about? Didn't Ling Xiao say that he already has a woman? Fengming Piao Shui said with a red face, What are you afraid of? If you really like him, I will take care of everything for you. Patriarch Changel said very seriously, Forget it. I know Ling Xiao. Although he is arrogant, if you treat him with sincerity, he will reciprocate with sincerity. Grandfather, I know what you want to do, but it won't work. I'm afraid it will annoy him. Fengming Piao Shui shook her head and said, What's more, the white blood poison in your body has not been completely removed. If you offend him at this time, you will be in trouble. I didn't expect my Piao Shui to suddenly become so mature and steady. It's rare. Patriarch Changel said in surprise. At this time, Ling Xiao had returned to Princess Yunya's residence. There was actually a reason why he hurried home. In the process of detoxifying Patriarch Changel, he collected all the white blood poison into his mountain river world and condensed it into a white crystal. Because this thing came from outside the mystic world, it was very valuable for research. He returned home to study it as soon as possible. After all, the white blood poison was too powerful. He was also afraid that it would be dangerous if he kept it in the mountain river world. To his surprise, when his heavenly elemental energy came into contact with the crystal, he discovered that it contained the pure energy from the everlasting joy ancestor's body. This energy was suppressed by the white blood poison and could be easily subdued and transformed. This was simply an unexpected gain. Ling Xiao seized the time and began to cultivate. From the time he returned to the house until the sky was dark, he finally completely transformed the pure energy into his own heavenly primary energy. At this point, his cultivation finally broke through again and advanced to the peak of the 9th heavenly layer. He was one step away from entering the 10 directions heaven realm. The higher the cultivation, the more difficult it was to advance. Therefore, there were many times when such circumstances were needed. Ling Xiao's adventure could be considered an additional gain. Just as he was feeling happy about his breakthrough, he suddenly realized that he had transformed and tamed the white blood poison. The terrifying white blood poison could be freely controlled in his mountain river world. He tried to circulate his heavenly primary energy and transfer the white blood poison through his meridians to his fingers. This process was completely unobstructed. It was as smooth and natural as circulating his heavenly primary energy. Maybe I can use this white blood poison with the shadow profound meaning. After all, they're both energy of the same cold attribute. Ling Xiao was a warrior who liked to innovate and transform martial arts. His light profound meaning could release high temperatures, so the power of his moves was generally greater than that of the shadow profound meaning. Although the shadow profound meaning was unpredictable and impossible to guard against, its lethality was still insufficient. If he integrated the white blood poison, this situation would be fundamentally different. Thinking of this, he condensed a shadow all in the palm of his hand. The white blood poison followed the heavenly primary energy and integrated into the shadow all. Chapter 1210. The combination of shadow and poison powers, because they were of the same attribute, coupled with Ling Xiao's perfect control of energy, actually made the shadow cone undergo a new change. Poison shadow cone. This is your name from now on. This is really an unexpected gain. I didn't expect that saving people would have such benefits. Ling Xiao looked at the move in his hand that had become more powerful and smiled. He was naturally in a good mood. When he was preparing to consolidate his current training results, suddenly there was a rustling sound on the roof. Since you're here, come in. It's not good to step on other people's roof. Ling Xiao looked up at the roof and said lightly. At the same time, he raised his hand and the door opened. Young Hero Ling is really amazing. You can even find this. Before the person arrived, the bell-like laughter arrived first. A moment later, a woman walked in from the door with a slightly wild dress, coupled with a pair of eyes full of spirit. It made people feel that she wasn't ordinary at first glance. I don't know the name of the beauty. Why are you looking for me when it's dark? Ling Xiao really didn't know the person who came. Hua Luiying. The person looked at Ling Xiao with a smile. Although her whole body was wrapped tightly, the lower body was wearing tight leather pants, and the upper body clothes perfectly outlined the enchanting and charming figure. This woman still knew how to show her beauty and wildness. Seductive little wild cat. This was Ling Xiao's evaluation of the woman in front of him. Although Hua Luiying's beauty wasn't as beautiful as Yuemenu or even Cold Plum, but she had a special flavor. This kind of woman easily made people have a strong sense of conquest. Ling Xiao didn't know Hua Luiying, nor did he know what Hua Luiying did, nor did he know why Hua Luiying came to him so late. But there didn't seem to be any hostility from the other party. Otherwise, he wouldn't mind trying the newly strengthened poison shadow cone. Hua Luiying? Never heard of it. Ling Xiao shook his head. It's okay. I'm the second leader of the Double Flower Pirates. Can we sit down and talk? Hua Luiying asked with a smile. Please take a seat. Ling Xiao made an inviting gesture. Hua Luiying casually found a place to sit down, and then stared at Ling Xiao's broad chest, which was full of masculine charm, and laughed foolishly. Captain Hua, you still haven't told me why you're looking for me. Ling Xiao waved his hand, and a coat quickly covered his body, covering his powerful muscles, before he asked indifferently. He knew that these pirate women were very powerful. They were different from traditional women. They would really snatch some men they fancied onto the ship to enjoy themselves. It was like a male pirate trying to snatch a woman. Look at what you're saying. Can't the two of us get close to each other for no reason? Hua Feiying rolled his eyes at Ling Xiao, but his eyes were filled with seduction. No one would believe that he wasn't trying to seduce Ling Xiao. Close? Ling Xiao smiled and said, Leader Hua, you can't say such things carelessly. My woman lives next door. If she hears you say such things, I'm afraid she won't let you off. This sounded simple, but it was actually a threat. Hua Luiying had seen how powerful Cold Plum was. Even a Grotto Heaven realm martial artist like Python Sky was easily defeated by Cold Plum. She couldn't compare to Python Sky, and naturally wasn't Cold Plum's opponent. Young Hero Ling, do you really think I'll eat you up? This time, I'm here to get closer, but it's not what you think. Hua Luiying suddenly stood up and gave Ling Xiao a flirtatious look. At that moment, Ling Xiao felt as if his spiritual sea was being invaded by something. Then he was shocked to find that Hua Luiying, who was standing in front of him, actually started to dance that incomparably seductive dance. Every dance seemed to be seducing his soul, making him unable to extricate himself. The whole room was filled with an enchanting atmosphere. Everything seemed to have become peachy. Ling Xiao felt as if there was a ball of fire burning in his body, and his lower abdomen was unbearably swollen. At this moment, he actually had an impulse to go over and press Hua Luiying to the ground, and then have 300 rounds of sex. Faintly, he heard his own rapid breathing, and beads of sweat appeared on his body. Then Hua Luiying used that extremely seductive dance to get closer to him, and gently blew into his ear, making a seductive sound like a demon. All of this happened in an instant. Ling Xiao's Tai Chi eye suddenly opened, and an extremely powerful soul power gushed out, like the water from hell, filling the whole room. All of the enchanting scene suddenly disappeared. Only Hua Luiying sat there, in a strange posture. His eyes were blurred, and he was as beautiful as a peach blossom. Strange and shameful sounds came from his throat. Backlash. Ling Xiao smiled. In a moment, he understood what had just happened. This Hua Luiying, he didn't know where he learned such a powerful seduction technique. It was similar to what Ling Yu of the Ling family practiced, but much stronger. Just now, Hua Luiying tried to use this seduction technique to make Ling Xiao lose himself and fall into an illusion. But he didn't think that Ling Xiao's soul power was too strong. Not only did it destroy the seduction technique, but it also made Hua Luiying suffer from the backlash. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao directly brought a bucket of ice water from outside and poured it on Hua Luiying's head. The ice-cold stimulation made Hua Luiying recover from his loss of self-control, and his pretty face was as red as a ripe apple. Leader Hua, you actually used your seduction technique to deal with me. Could it be that we have a grudge before? Ling Xiao smiled and asked. Ling Xiao was very interested in the wet Hua Luiying, but when he thought of the cold eyes of the Moon Lady, he immediately calmed down. Young Hero Ling, why do you say that? Don't you understand? I just like you. Hua Luiying said very boldly. You like me, so you use this method to deal with me? Ling Xiao asked with a cold face. We children of the sea are just this direct. We don't have time to talk about love when we want to get a man or woman. Because no one knows if they will be able to come back alive tomorrow. The sea is full of danger, 10 times scarier than on land. Hua Luiying's seduction technique was destroyed by Ling Xiao, so he might as well just let it go and said directly, "But what I, Ling Xiao, hate the most is being forced, you know." To be honest, Ling Xiao was a little angry just now, but after hearing Hua Luiying's words, he wasn't angry anymore. He just felt that it was a little ridiculous. If I didn't force myself, you probably wouldn't even look at me. Hua Luiying sighed and said, "This woman was really honest and really daring. She actually wanted to force herself on a man." Chapter 12:11. Feelings can't be forced. Captain Hua, don't do such childish things in the future. If I really did attack you just now, you would already be dead. Ling Xiao said faintly, "It's already late, you should go back. I still have things to do tomorrow, so I can't accompany you." "Young hero Ling, I can go back, but today, other than my own intentions, I also have a mission for my sister." Hua Luiying suddenly became serious and said, "Oh, your sister is looking for me for something?" "That's right. She wants you to join our Twin Flowers Pirates." Hua Luiying replied, "I'm not interested in being a pirate." Ling Xiao shook his head and rejected. He was the Dragon King of the Divine Phoenix Empire, the Celestial Emperor of the Celestial Empire. Why would he become a pirate? "Young hero Ling may look down on our Twin Flowers Pirates, but you may not know this, but in the mystic world, the ocean takes up almost 70% of the area, and the land only makes up 30%. The forces in the ocean are far stronger than you can imagine. If you join our Twin Flowers Pirates, you will definitely see a whole new world." Hua Luiying continued to persuade. Ling Xiao heard this and couldn't help but think for a moment. He believed Hua Luiying's words. If the Twin Flowers Pirates didn't have a big force behind them, then it would really be hard for them to do well in this area. After all, they weren't the only pirate group near the City of Sin. There were some that were close to their level of strength. For example, the infamous One-Eyed Pirates. The leader of this pirate group, One-Eyed, was also very strong. Although he wasn't as strong as Hua Fuguang, he was much stronger than Hua Luiying. "Sorry, I'm not interested in what big force you have behind you. Of course, I appreciate your good intentions. We can be friends, but I don't plan on joining you." Ling Xiao's attitude was very clear. Joining an unknown big force would also mean taking on unknown risks. To him, it wasn't worth it. He didn't like that feeling. "Young hero Ling, I still hope that you can consider carefully." Hua Luiying said very seriously, "If you join us, you can get a large amount of cultivation resources that you lacked before, including pills, martial arts, and so on. You can also obtain the protection of the great power behind us. Not to mention here, even in the entire Divine Phoenix continent, no one would dare to easily offend you. The conditions are indeed generous, but I'm really not interested. Leader Hua, go back and tell your sister about my intentions." Ling Xiao said faintly, "And this so-called big force of yours is too insincere. If you want me to join, why don't you come and invite me yourself?" Hua Luiying didn't know how to answer. Was he supposed to say that the power behind her wasn't interested in Ling Xiao at all? Did the two sisters think that Ling Xiao had great potential, so they made the decision to invite him? However, she still did not quite understand. Ling Xiao was actually not interested in medicinal pills or martial arts. She did not know that after Ling Xiao obtained the help of the Human King, he already had a systematic cultivation method. There was no need for external martial arts to interfere with him. As for medicinal pills, he was a powerful alchemist himself. Why would he need to look at other people's faces? He hated being restrained the most, especially by unknown big forces. It felt as if he was being kept in captivity. "Young hero Ling, I'll say something you don't want to hear. The big force behind us has actually never looked at you seriously. It's just that my sister and I feel that you have potential, so we came to invite you. If you miss this opportunity, I'm afraid it will be difficult for you to join this force in the future. Hua Luiying reminded him. Haha, there's no big force in this world that I, Ling Xiao, would beg to join. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. If it was before he joined the Yuehua school, he might have considered it. However, after experiencing so much, he already had everything he needed. There was no need to rely on any big force, so he would definitely not do so now. You're too conceited. Hua Luiying sighed and said, You may not know that you've already been targeted. If the martial spirit of Taotai was obtained by the Black Python clan, perhaps no one would dare to say anything. But now that it's in your hands, that might not be the case. Thank you for your reminder, Leader Hua. I know what I'm doing. Would Ling Xiao be afraid? He wasn't even afraid of the Black Python clan, so why would he be afraid of someone who would be afraid of the Black Python clan? Well, in that case, I won't say anything more. Young Hero Ling, you should think about it carefully. I've been staying in the Black Wind House in the city of Sin for the past few days. If you've thought it through, you can contact me anytime. Goodbye. Hua Luiying could tell that Ling Xiao was very stubborn and persistent. It was almost impossible to threaten him with anything. She didn't want to push him too hard, so she stopped and chose to leave. Let me send you out. You may not know that you've already been targeted when you entered this house. It's really not easy to leave alone. Ling Xiao stood up and said, Impossible. I was very careful when I came in. Hua Luiying said, Then you can try. Ling Xiao smiled and said. Hua Luiying hesitated for a moment, then jumped out. However, she came back a moment later, looking a little embarrassed. Do you believe me now? If you come to me in the future, you can go through the front door directly. Otherwise, people will think you're an assassin. Ling Xiao smiled and walked out first. Hua Luiying followed behind him and successfully walked out of Princess Yunya's residence. Young Hero Ling, thank you for sending me off. I'll leave first. Hua Luiying had suffered a lot tonight, so she didn't have the arrogance she had when she came. Okay, be careful on the way. Ling Xiao watched Hua Luiying leave. Then he turned and went in. Hua Luiying turned a corner at the intersection. There was a small stall selling food like wontons under the cover of the night. This wasn't unusual. In a place like the City of Sin, many retired warriors liked to do this kind of thing. They were tired of the disputes in the martial world and treated this kind of thing as enjoyment. At this time, there was a woman sitting at the wonton stall. Her pretty face was actually 90% similar to Hua Luiying's, but she looked more mature. She was wearing soft armor and looked extraordinary. At first glance, you could tell that she was someone who often fought and killed. Although there were evil eyes looking at her from time to time, when they saw the woman's appearance, they were scared and avoided her. The leader of the Twin Flowers pirates, Hua Fuguang, was a female demon who killed people like flies. Even in the City of Sin, not many people dared to provoke her. Sister, I've really embarrassed myself this time. Hua Luiying sat beside Hua Fuguang. In the night, they outlined a beautiful scenery. The two were twins, and they were both very good-looking. They were really eye-catching. Chapter 1212. Why a 17-year-old kid actually made our experienced leader, Hua Luiying, succumb to him. Hua Fuguang used a handkerchief to wipe his mouth as he asked with a smile, Sister, don't mention it. That kid isn't human, he's a monster. Hua Luiying laughed bitterly. You've really screwed me over today. You forced me to use my seduction skills, and in the end, I was just asking for trouble. You used your seduction skills, and you still couldn't conquer him? This person's willpower is so strong? Hua Fuguang asked in shock. It wasn't because of my willpower, but because his soul force was too strong. The moment I used my charm technique, it was as if I saw a demon god appear in front of me. Then the charm technique backfired, and I was foolishly tricked by myself. Speaking of this, Hua Luiying really had the heart to commit suicide. That kind of ugly state was actually seen by an outsider, especially by the person he claimed to be pursuing. This was simply depressing. Looks like this Ling Xiao should have cultivated some soul-related martial arts. According to our investigation, Ling Xiao knows a soul race woman called Ling Yixue. I'm afraid, he learned from her. Hua Fuguang thought for a moment. Ling Yixue. Sister, you mean Ling Yixue? Hearing this name, Hua Luiying suddenly stood up in shock. That's right, it's Ling Yixue, Heroic Soul Palace's holy maiden, a peerless genius. Hua Fuguang replied. I knew it. That Ling Xiao is actually so arrogant. I didn't expect him to be related to such a terrifying power like Heroic Soul Palace. Hua Luiying was completely listless. That's not it. After Ling Yixue left Sky Cloud City in Sky Dragon Continent, she no longer interacted with Ling Xiao. So Ling Xiao doesn't know about Ling Yixue's matters. He shouldn't be related to Heroic Soul Palace. Moreover, those fellows from Heroic Soul Palace are the true overlords of martial arts. They don't even care about people like Ling Xiao. How would they allow Ling Yixue to be with him? Hua Fuguang explained. All right, let's not talk about Ling Yixue. Since Ling Xiao isn't willing to join us, that's his loss and not ours. What you should be concerned about now is that treasure. Imperial Jade Seal? That's right. According to the news from above, the Imperial Jade Seal has appeared in the City of Sin. However, as for where exactly it is, we still need to find out. As long as we can get our hands on this item, then you and I can report back to our superiors. The benefits we will receive will not be ordinary. Hua Fuguang nodded. Ah, what a pity. During the day, Black Wind Tower auctioned off a large bronze seal, but I didn't see any heirloom seal. Hua Luiying sighed. He wanted to think about the Imperial Jade Seal, but he couldn't help but think of Ling Xiao. What's wrong with me? Hua Luiying smiled bitterly as he touched his burning face. All right, little sister, after we obtain the Imperial Jade Seal, we should set sail. The profound world is very big, and there are many outstanding young people. There is no need to hang ourselves on a single tree. Got it, sister. Although she said so, she still felt a strong sense of unwillingness in her heart. Was she going to give up on the man she liked just like that? On the second day, Black Wind Tower's auction went on as scheduled. Although many things happened on the first day, it didn't affect the auction on the second day. In the auction on the second day, the most eye-catching items were a high-grade, yellow-grade medicinal pill, a set of immortal-grade treasured sword, and a few sets of martial arts for Heaven Realm warriors. These were all the finale items, and in the end they were sold for a high price of 100 million low-grade spiritual stones. Of course, after the Black Wind Tower took 20% of the commission, the remaining 80 million was Ling Xiao's. Hua Luiying still stayed in the Black Wind Tower because the Imperial Jade Seal could appear here at any time. His sister, Hua Fuguang, had already started investigating in secret. She looked towards the VIP box in boredom, but didn't see Ling Xiao's figure. She couldn't help but feel disappointed. Python Sky Tower Master, that Ling Xiao didn't come? Hua Luiying couldn't help but ask Python Sky. Ling Xiao won't be coming today because he has to prepare for the alchemy conference. I'll personally send the spiritual stones to him later. Although Python Sky was still very dissatisfied with Ling Xiao, he definitely didn't dare to provoke Ling Xiao now. Ling Xiao's strength was undeniable. However, the most terrifying thing was the two women beside Ling Xiao. They were simply unpredictable. The weak succumbed to the strong. This was a matter of course. He didn't want to joke about his life. Python Sky, let me bring the spiritual stones back. I won't trouble you. Anyway, you don't want to see him, right? At this moment, Yunya had also finished her work as the host. She walked out and smiled at Python Sky. If Princess Yunya wants to do it for me, then I'm very grateful. Python Sky really didn't want to see Ling Xiao. Whenever he saw Ling Xiao, He would think of his brother, Mang Yuan, who had been killed. He was really afraid that he would do something impulsive. As he spoke, he handed a storage ring to Yunya and said, "There are exactly 100 million lower-grade spiritual stones in here. After Princess Yun passes the spiritual stones to Ling Shao. You just need to return the storage ring." 100 million? You didn't take a commission? Yunya asked curiously. The Great Master said that he doesn't need a commission. Although Python Sky didn't know why, the Great Master Python 5's words were like an imperial edict. The people of the Black Python clan had to listen and obey. "Python Sky, where's that Ling Shao? Didn't he come to the Raven Wind Tower today?" Just as Yunya took the storage ring and was about to leave, someone suddenly barged in. That rude and unreasonable voice was like the roar of a wild beast in the Raven Wind Tower. Many people frowned when they heard it. They were very unhappy. However, when they saw this person, many people swallowed their complaints and didn't dare to say a word. At the entrance of the Raven Wind Tower, there were more than 10 people standing there. The leader was wearing an eye patch on one of his eyes. He was tall and mighty, and he looked like a small giant. He was about 3 meters tall. There were many scars on his head and body. He looked very ferocious and terrifying. This also added a lot of fierceness to his aura. I was wondering who it was. So it's the leader of the One-Eyed Pirates, One-Eyed Dragon. Why are you looking for Ling Shao? Python Sky asked faintly. Nonsense. Of course I'm here for the martial soul of Taotai. This won't offend the Raven Wind Tower, right? Where is that kid? Get him out here and hand over the martial soul of Taotai to me with both hands. One-Eyed Dragon said loudly. He didn't hide his purpose at all. This guy is really here for the martial soul of Taotai. The surrounding warriors couldn't help but think to themselves. In fact, the news of the birth of the martial soul of Taotai had spread like wildfire late last night. Someone must have deliberately spread the news. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.